does not have that record.
It really doesn't. That is around 3 or 4 yellow flags per race, as a matter of fact. Just 3 or 4 occur here. And actually, when they get out there and go to racing, as long as nothing goes wrong mechanically, the drivers really enjoy this racetrack, and some of the best competition historically in NASCAR has occurred right here.
Look at the thousands of people on hand here in the hot sunshine, waiting for the start of the Winston 500. Well, we haven't forgotten about Dale Earnhardt, winner of the last 4 Winston Cup races, a man who has the utmost respect of his fellow drivers.
Being a driver, I know when people aren't looking, he can go 500 miles an hour.
I know for a fact that Dale Earnhardt has won all 253 races he's ever been entered in.
I know for a fact that that blue and yellow paint gives him 1,000 extra horsepower.
I think the thing about Dale Earnhardt is his unaggressive style, and he lets the race come to him.
There's a popular misconception about Dale Earnhardt's nickname around the garage area, but I know for a fact that it's really Mr. Clean.
Why, there's no one in the whole wide world of racing that I'd rather come down to the last lap with than my good friend, my buddy, my compadre, my confidant, Dale Earnhardt. And if I'm lying, may lightning strike me right where I stand.
Were those guys telling the truth?
I'll tell you what, Bob. I mean, we obviously had a little bit of fun with the situation, but not a one of them would trade positions, or would like to, all of them would like to trade positions with Dale so far in 1987.
The Winston 500 from Talladega is being brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By AC Delco, stay ahead of trouble with AC Delco parts. By Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, no matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. And by Quaker State Motor Oil, new Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. The starting lineup when we return to Talladega, Alabama. Rather variable. We had heavy rain overnight. It showered and sprinkled this morning, but skies are partly sunny right now. It will be quite hot if the sun stays out. The temperatures have been near or just slightly above 90 degrees for the past few days. The field begins to move out onto the 2.66-mile racetrack here at Talladega. They'll take a couple of warm-up laps before they get the green flag. The banking in turns 2 and 3, 33 degrees. The same in turns 3 and 4. The tri-oval is 18 degrees of banking. And now the starting lineup for the 18th annual Winston 500. On the front row with a new qualifying record of 212.809 in the Coors Belling Ford, Bill Elliott, number 9. Outside of row number 1 will be the Miller American Buick, number 22, driven by Bobby Allison from nearby Hueytown, Alabama. His son will start inside second row, Davey Allison in the number 28 Haviland Ford. And outside of row number 2 will be Darrell Waltrip, qualifying at 210.471 in the Tide Exxon Chevrolet. Going in the third row, Dale Earnhardt in number 3, the Wrangler GM Goodwrench Chevrolet. Outside of row number 3 will be car number 21, the Citgo Ford, driven by Kyle Petty. Going in row number 4, Sterling Marlin in the number 44 Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile. Alongside will be the Budweiser Kentucky Fried Chevrolet number 11, driven by Terry Labonte. In the fifth row, Phil Parsons in the Fast Fair Copenhagen Oldsmobile number 55. Outside of the fifth row will be Lake Speed in number 83, the Wins Kmart Friction-Proving Oldsmobile. Going in row number 6 will be Jeff Bodine. In car number 5, the Levi Garrett Exxon Chevrolet. Buddy Baker will start alongside Jeff in number 8, the Crisco Bullfrog Knits Oldsmobile. In the 7th row, Ron Bouchard in car number 1, the Bullseye Barbecue Sauce Buick. And outside of him will be Rusty Wallace in the Kodak Pontiac car number 27. In the 8th row, it'll be number 90, the Red Baron Frozen Pizza Ford, driven by Ken Schrader, and Bobby Hillen Jr. in the number 8 Miller American Buick. In the 9th row, number 15, the Motorcraft Ford, driven by Ricky Rudd, and the number 29 Hardee's Oldsmobile, driven by Cale Yarborough. Then in the 10th row, it'll be Morgan Shepherd in the Quaker State Buick number 26, and Benny Parsons in the Folgers Exxon Chevrolet number 35. The rest of the starting lineup will be Neil Bonnet in car number 75 and Greg Saxon 50 in row 11. The 12th row has Joe Ruttman and Michael Waltrip. In the 13th row, Richard Petty and Harry Gant. Going in row number 14, Rick Wilson and Alan Kulwicki. Row 15 consists of Ken Reagan and Ed Pym. The 16th row, Chet Phillip and Connie Saylor. In row number 17, Mark Stahl and Eddie Bierschwald. In row number 18, Dave Marcus and Slick Johnson. In the 19th row, Phil Barkdahl and Dale Jarrett. In row number 20, Rick Knoop and Steve Chrisman. And starting 41st, the provisional starter, Jimmy Means in car number 52. We have a couple of in-car cameras for you today. Hardy's in-car camera, first of all, in the Rick Wilson Kodak car.
If you've never traveled over 120 miles per hour in a car, and few of us have, wait till you travel at over 200 miles per hour. It is a very special sight.
And the Hardy's in-car camera being carried by, of course, Cale Yarborough, as the cars now move down the backstretch. They're just about at the end of the backstretch, setting into turn number 3.
Bob, many of us see a lot of motor races a year. You think of Le Mans, Nürburgring, MIS, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Daytona, and Talladega. All very special, emotional, heart-stopping speeds. This is a special place, and the start of a race here is a special moment.
You need only look at the grandstands and the infield to get an idea of how important this race is. The attendance here, probably over 100,000, and each of them are now on their feet, ready for the start of this 188-lap, 500-mile Winston 500 from the world's longest and fastest racetrack, Talladega, Alabama. They come through the tri-oval. The pace car pulls off. The crowd now begins to cheer as Bill Elliott and Bobby Allison come down through the 18 degrees of banking in the tri-oval, looking for the green flag that will start this event. Let's watch them. If everything looks good, the green flag will go out. There it is, the acceleration. The pace picks up, and the Winston 500 is underway. Side racing through turns number 1 and 2. Bill Elliott has grabbed the lead. Bobby Allison, who started second, is dropping back quickly. Allison will lead them, rather Davey Allison will jump into second position and chase Bill Elliott down the backstretch. And here comes Sterling Marlin. Look at him move on the inside of the racetrack, passing Bobby Allison and going to third.
The world's biggest, longest, and fastest trophy dash, side by side, 2, 3, and 4 abreast, around 2.66 miles of Talladega.
The first lap about to be completed. Bill Elliott will lead it, followed by Davey Allison. Then Sterling Marlin in third. Running in fourth is Allison. Then Darrell Waltrip, Dale Earnhardt, and Terry Labonte as they head to number 1 again.
Boy, I must tell all of you, racing on TV is the best because you can get right inside the cockpit. You can see all the way around. You don't miss any of the action. But watching a race in person at Talladega, it's got to be a mind-boggling and a heart-hugging experience. It is tremendous.
Darrell Waltrip in the Tide machine number 17 had a good qualifying effort. He's running 4th right now and may certainly be a contender in this event. The crowd is still cheering as the field comes down through the tri-oval once again. They continue to run in the same order, though. It's going to be Bill Elliott leading Davey Allison, and then Bobby Allison, followed by Waltrip, Labonte, Blake Speed, and Jeff Bodine, then Dale Earnhardt. The pace is 209.82 miles an hour.
Much faster, I think, than anybody anticipated. 209 miles per hour. Automatically, right away, the strategy begins to unfold. Bill Elliott is making everybody, including Cale Yarborough, whom you're riding with right now, go faster than they wanted to do. Nobody really wanted to go 209 miles an hour.
We're inside Cale Yarborough's car. He's following Kyle Petty. Some of our in-car cameras, as we watch Kyle Petty going to the inside of Ron Bouchard, you will hear the driver on and off the accelerator. Not here at Talladega. They're on it all the way around, and Petty moves around Ron Bouchard.
Ron Bouchard in Moss Ellington's Bullseye, sponsored number 1, running up there in the top 15. We might talk a little bit about some of the favorites, among which is not Cale Yarborough as far as today's race goes. A lot of people were looking toward Buddy Baker, Some people felt that Davey Allison had a real chance. Rusty Wallace was another name that was mentioned, and of course, Dale Earnhardt and Bill Elliott.
Here are the leaders. It's still Bill Elliott, and the Allisons are going for second position. The yellow flag is out. Yellow on the racetrack. We have a car smoking badly coming out of the corner number 4. Will be pulling into the pit area, and so this is going to be a slow lap.
Chet Phillip.
In the number 81 car, Chet Phillip has mechanical problems and brings out our first caution period of the afternoon.
Chet Phillip, the former Indianapolis car driver, he has qualified for 2 Indianapolis 500s, and of course he's racing out of the Buddy Arrington Potter stables in 1987.
We completed 4 laps before we had our first caution period, but it's only for a mechanical problem and possible oil on the racetrack. The track crews will be checking it while we are under this yellow flag. Bill Elliott has led all the way. Running second is Davey Allison, and third is father Bobby Allison. We'll be back with more from the Winston 500 at Talladega. Buick is running third right behind his son, Davey.
Well, Bobby Allison won this race a year ago, and he's had one of the better seats of watching the streaking Davey Allison, his son, and Bill Elliott. Bobby, are you surprised at the pace that Elliott is setting?
Not really, Larry. We saw him run awful good in practice, and we really expected to see him run very fast.
Bobby, is one of the favorites. At this point, do you just run your own race, and whatever Davey and Dale or Davey and Bill want to do, just leave them go?
Roger, I don't change my strategy any. I just go ahead and run our own race, especially this early.
How about your car? Is it tight? Is it loose? Does the car feel real good?
Right now, the Miller American Buick feels mighty good to me.
Okay, Bobby, good luck to you.
Lap number 6 has been completed. This is the second lap under caution. The field now in single file formation. We want to get our commercial breaks in here while there is no racing on the track, so we can bring you the real excitement from here at Talladega. So we'll be right back after these messages. A big auto racing doubleheader on ESPN after our Winston 500 here today. The San Marino Grand Prix Formula 1 race will be presented here on ESPN. We're still under caution because of a mechanical problem developing on the Chet Phillip car. They're checking the track for oil and other possible moisture. Well, Buddy Baker is currently running in 9th position in the Crisco car. He has been very successful here at Talladega. We asked him if there is something special about it.
We understand that the race engine is even quicker than the qualifying engine.
Well, you know, qualifying's one thing, racing's a whole different story, and we have a very good engine that we have for race day, and the car is, I'm able to stay right around the bottom of the racetrack, which is the quickest. Irregardless of what you see during the race, we'll probably be all over the place, but the real quick way around is a short way around, and that's the bottom. So I'm able to do that right now, and I was in practice with Bill Elliott just a few minutes ago, and I was able to pull right up under him and pass him. I don't think I've seen that in a while down here, but the car really does feel good, and it'll take, you know, the team effort, the good pit stops and a whole bit, but we're running as well as we did in Daytona, and we thought we had a real good shot down there, and it's going to be fun to race hard all day.
So perhaps the secret to success here at Talladega is running the bottom line. At least that's what Buddy Baker feels. There's the leader, Bill Elliott. As we remain under caution, Davey Allison is running second, followed by Bobby Allison in third. Running in 4th position is Darrell Waltrip in car 17, followed by Terry Labonte in Junior Johnson's car. Then the hot guy, Dale Earnhardt. Lake Speed has shown well in the early going. He's followed by Jeff Bodine, and then Buddy Baker and Sterling Marlin. Now, we'll see if we get a restart here. Yes, the pace car does pull off of the racetrack, so the pace begins to quicken now again as Bill Elliott smashes the throttle and prepares to take the green flag for resumption of this 188-lap event. This will complete lap number 8, and the green flag comes out once again.
Jump by Phil Parsons. That may well be a judgment call. Phil Parsons is going to the lead. The green flags seem to be fluttering as Phil dropped down low, past several cars, and now challenges Bill Elliott. He got around 6 cars as the green fluttered.
Now he begins to settle alongside Darrell Waltrip, and he doesn't have anybody to draft with, so he's backing up just a little bit. Now being passed by Dale Earnhardt as Dale goes to the high side of the racetrack, and already Phil Parsons has moved back to 6th position. So the lead continues to be held now by Bill Elliott, and Davey Allison second with Darrell Waltrip third, then Terry Labonte and Dale Earnhardt.
There is much talk these days about how the draft has changed, that you don't have that tornado-like draft that you used to have on these big racetracks. But there was an example right there that if nobody helps you, if nobody goes with you, and there are 4 or 5 cars that are basically against you as you're trying to make a pass, the draft does have an effect. Phil had the momentum going around turn 1 and 2, but when he got on the backstretch, all the hot dogs stayed in line and said, "Sorry, Phil, we don't want you up here." Nobody let him in line, and they all passed out.
Well, the question in our mind was, did Phil Parsons jump the green flag? Did he begin passing cars before the green actually came out? The NASCAR officials say, no, he did not, so everything is okay with Phil Parsons. Well, out in front, a couple of Fords, Bill Elliott and Davey Allison. What are the drivers saying, Larry, about the possible advantage of the Fords here at Talladega?
Well, the drivers, all those without Fords, would like to say that Fords have a tremendous advantage. One of the more interesting quotes in regards to a response to that was Alan Kawicki saying, "I don't think that a Ford helped me very much when I won my short track pole, but this is a big track." The drivers who don't have them say, yes, there is an advantage. I don't think the advantage is as much as it once was, say, the beginning of 1985 or throughout the 1985 season. Terry Labonte making a move, going underneath Darrell Waltrip. Those are 2 non-Fords. But I do believe on the super speedways, the Ford lines are just a tad better at this point, at this moment. Could change in a month than the General Motors car.
Well, Terry Labonte is certainly showing some muscle here in the early going in this race. He started 8th and has already moved up to 3rd position, as the battle for 4th now is between Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip, and Waltrip being followed closely by Dale Earnhardt, as the first 3 have pulled out to a few car lengths advantage.
If you're a Winston Cup regular, as we go back inside of Cale Yarborough's car, look at him following Rick Wilson on the left. Oh, coming very close to Rusty Wallace, and they stay together, but nobody panics. Everybody stays on a straight line, and no problem. That was, by the way, at about 205 miles an hour. Whew, I guess that's what you call confidence in your fellow man. I was about to say that if you've noticed, Waltrip is running up front. Yeah, he's had a good week.
Cale Yarborough is running in 17th, so the guys ahead of him are battling for 15th position, and Jeff Bodine has come in for an unscheduled pit stop.
Jeff Bodine, who seemingly had the race won at Martinsville on a very short track a week ago when he was involved in a very minor altercation with Kyle Petty. He said that he did not think it was either one of their faults. He lost that race, and he had great hopes for today. Dick Bergen is down there now.
Well, the hood is up on Jeff Bodine's car. This is not an easy situation, very obviously. One of the things that many of the mechanics are going to be watching here this afternoon, Bob and Larry, is the weather. The weather has been changing all day long. Most of the heat, most of the temperatures these guys have practiced at, qualified at, run at, have been in the 80s and the 90s. This morning, it was well into the 60s here. Now, that changes the way the cars run, changes the whole setup situation. So, because they don't really know what it's supposed to do this afternoon, some of the forecasts say showers, some say nice, some say cool, some say warm. Just about everybody has taken a conservative approach in setup. Right now, we're about to get some overcast. And meanwhile, up pit road is my colleague Jerry Punch.
Well, Jeff Bodine's car, the Levi Garrett Chevrolet, being pushed back to the garage area. The word, the engine came unglued in the car. He will exit here. They're going to try to take a little look at it back here and see if there's something they could possibly fix, but I think maybe the engine may be gone.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. 208.13 is the pace being set here in the Winston 500, as, again, we see the first 3 cars pulling away from the rest of the field. And those 3 are Bill Elliott, Davey Allison, and the Chevrolet of Terry Labonte.
Remember that Terry Labonte has a cracked shoulder blade. Now, it's come a long ways in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and in talking with Terry before this race began, we're looking at Davey Allison on the right, the leader, Bill Elliott, on the left. That's where he's been since the green flag dropped. Labonte said this will be a good racetrack to drive injured. that because the speeds are so high, you glide around there. There's almost as much intellect that is involved as muscle running here at Talladega, and this is one of Terry Labonte's strongest performances. He really has not been in a position late in the race to win an event so far in 1987. A lot of people thought that he would be, and Labonte begins to make a move. He looks to the inside of Davey Allison. He glides past casually and easily, and Terry Labonte takes the runner-up spot as Jerry Punch has moved over and is ready to talk to Jeff Bodine.
Well, a disappointed Jeff Bodine still sitting inside the Chevrolet trying to get the cool suit off. Jeffrey, a short afternoon. What happened out there?
I don't even think it got started. I really don't know. Something went wrong in the engine. Acted like a bearing was tightening up or something, but I tell you, the car was handling so good. Rick, I'm sorry, we're trying. We're going to get out of this bad luck streak someday, but it was running and handling so good. I really felt like we had a good chance at winning or finishing good here anyway, but I don't know what's wrong. We keep trying, working hard, running good, but we'll get it all together one of these days.
Well, Jeff Bodine referring to Rick Hendrick, his car owner, who's watching us on ESPN today. Bodine, the second car to exit here at Talladega.
Jeff, of course, one of our guests as we presented a special Speed Week last Friday night. He and Bill Elliott joined us, and Jeff had high hopes of doing well in this race, but unfortunately it's over already for Jeff Bodine. But it's not over for about 39 other drivers, being led at this point by Bill Elliott, then Terry Labonte, and then Davey Allison. A new track record for attendance, 135,000 on hand here today for the Winston 500. $18 of 188 laps completed, and Bill Elliott is the leader. Terry Labonte second, followed by Davey, Bobby, and Dale Earnhardt. Well, exciting NHL hockey tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Toronto. And we have a lead change here as Terry Labonte has passed Bill Elliott. So exciting hockey at 8 o'clock tonight here on ESPN. The Stanley Cup playoffs continue.
Bob, I think that may be the first time in 1987 that Terry Labonte has taken the lead under a green flag conditions. That's the first time any of us can remember, and Labonte is opening up distance between himself and Bill Elliott. Labonte has been moving up ever so slowly. It happens in most instances gradually here at Talladega. You can see his best 87 finish was a 4th earlier this year, but Terry Labonte, we thought that there were some concerned looks in the Junior Grant Johnson garage area, crew chief Jeff Hammond, throughout the week, but they have been a quiet but steady 210 runner all week long. And in the race, at least in the early stages here, Terry Labonte looks to be one of the strongest.
Back in the pack, meanwhile, one of the best battles going on right now is between Buddy Baker and Bobby Allison as they are going for that 4th position. Bobby Allison has it, but Buddy Baker has been challenging him for several laps now, and you can see how Buddy is running that low line, just as he explained a little bit earlier to us. That's where he likes to be, because simply that's the fastest way around Talladega.
Baker has been the cream in recent laps, meaning he started in 7th about 4 laps ago, and he's been steadily rising. He just passed Dale Earnhardt about a lap ago. Bobby Allison is next up. Son Davey should be next. You can see Earnhardt, the yellow car, still in the picture. But Buddy Baker, who has a lot of sentiment among veteran observers, has one of the real threats.
Oh, we have a problem.
Allison is blowing a tire.
Bobby Allison with a horrible crash here on the front stretch. It has torn out a complete section of protective railing separating it. Alan Kowicki becomes involved.
Debris and is collecting other cars. There was a lot of debris on the front stretch. Kowicki was involved. Richard Petty, I think, is another one of the cars. Lots of debris on the front stretch. Now, Bobby's car, to me, appeared to stay together quite well. He did get up into the fencing, but not into the stands.
And it was close, though. He has torn out a whole large area of guardrail. There it is, protecting the crowd from the racetrack. And he came very, very close to going into the stands. The car became airborne and went flying literally into that wall and catch fencing. But fortunately, it did stay onto the racetrack. Bobby Allison is moving around in the race car, and that is certainly good news for us, but he has to be quite shaken after a tremendous crash. The red flag has been brought out And quite frankly, Larry, I think we're going to have to be red for quite a while because we cannot race with that protective fencing in the shape that it's in. It's just not safe for the spectators.
It's pretty obvious why it was there, happening right underneath Harold Kinder. It wasn't the fence that caught him, but they have built the cement wall here at Talladega just a little taller
Bobby's
than most
out.
racetracks. There's Bobby getting out of the car. I told you that Bobby's car, though, was heavily damaged. It did stay together. The integrity of the roll cage is intact. The crowd is giving Bobby a very warm welcome out of that machine, but the car lived up to NASCAR standards.
Larry, I think a tire blew. I think I saw a tire coming apart while he was right here in the tri-oval nearing the starting line.
Right rear, it begins to shred, and the car goes out of control. You're at 210 miles an hour. You can see the right rear going. You see the debris there on the left-hand side of your screen. Earnhardt avoids Bobby. The car goes backwards. The aerodynamics get underneath the car, and Allison gets up into the fence. The aerodynamics lifted the car. They're not built to go backwards. Right underneath Harold Kinder. Harold, he stayed in there. Boy, I'll tell you, talk about a trooper. Kinder is right there. He's got the yellow flag out right away. That is a veteran, confident flagman. Here comes the rest of the field down. They've decelerated to maybe 180 miles an hour, but all the debris, there's Petty, there's Kawicki spinning. There's just nowhere for many of these drivers to go because there's so much of what was left over from the initial impact on the front stretch, and there was just nowhere to go.
And tires began to explode, too, as they ran over debris caused by the Allison crash. Well, it's very rare that you see that catch fencing do its job, but it sure did its job here at Talladega today, as if it hadn't been there or if it had not been as strong as it was, Bobby Allison's car would very clearly have gone into the grandstand right below us here in the broadcast booth. There's the tire going.
Here's another angle of it, and we'll just let you watch it because we've covered it well.
There goes Darrell Waltrip going by without becoming involved in it, but as I said, as the cars came down now, they were running over the debris of the Allison car, and tires were blowing, and therefore they became involved in the crash. There's Petty, Alan Kowicki, Phil Parsons made contact with the Bobby Allison car. We understand that is brand new catch fencing up here, and boy, we just salute the people here at Talladega for building it as strong as they did. There is a stretcher that we can see down there, a couple of stretchers, as a matter of fact, being lifted into the grandstand area, so perhaps there were some spectators that were hit by flying debris. All right, Phil Parsons did make contact with the Bobby Allison car. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, Phil Parsons still sitting in the car on pit road. The back of the car is just about sheared away at that Copenhagen Oldsmobile, and Parsons talking to the crew chiefs. Apparently his day is over with. I don't think the car will be fixable. They're going to try to bring it behind the wall. Maybe we'll get a comment with Phil in just a moment and find out exactly what happened down there.
All right, so Phil gathering his thoughts, and you can see him sort of gesturing to his crew. I really don't know what happened, but I became involved. There, meanwhile, is the Bobby Allison car that has come to a rest between the start-finish line and turn number 1. The ambulances are there. The track crews are there cleaning up the debris. Well, we will go inside now, Cale Yarborough's car, and see how it looked to him.
There he is following behind Greg Sachs, the Valvoline number 50. The action is beginning to unfold. It's already unfolded up in front of him, and there's Cale trying to weave his way through all the pieces lying on the ground. You can see that Greg Sachs goes into a spin. Greg made a left turn, a right turn. There's Cale. He's trying to avoid Rusty Wallace. He goes sideways. He goes up, gets along the outer wall. I think he avoided significant contact. He brings it back around. It does a reverse spin as he is beginning to fight at the wheel. And now he can use the banking to coast down to the bottom of the racetrack, crank it to the right, try and get that thing to start back up again. The red light comes on, indicating that the engine has been stalled, and then Cale Yarborough can get back around.
A scary moment for Cale Yarborough, and a scary moment for many of these drivers who became involved in this Bobby Allison crash in the tri-oval. There is Richard Petty, who was also spinning, trying to avoid the cars that were in front of him.
A comment, by the way, about Phil Parsons, whose car does appear to be terminally damaged. He was one of the dark horse favorites. As many of you who follow Winston Cup racing know, many times a dark horse will win here at Talladega. And Davey Allison, Sterling Marlin, and Phil Parsons are three of the people who had not won here recently that were definite threats for today.
Once again, a replay from the in-car camera of Cale Yarborough. This is at real speed, so it'll be just as Cale saw it. if Cale pretty much had it saved, but was hit a couple of times and then lost control.
Yeah, he got hit from behind. There's no question about that. You could hear it with the audio.
All right, let's go to Jerry Punch again and Phil Parsons.
Well, Phil's still sitting in the car on pit road trying to get the helmet unhooked. And Phil, what happened out there?
I have no idea. You know, my spotter came on the radio and told me there's a big crash in the front stretch, so I was slowing way down right here in the tri-oval and got slowed down pretty good. I was waving my hand because I was in a bunch of traffic, and I probably slowed down to 70 or 80 miles an hour just picking my way through the debris, and somebody hit me from behind, I guess turned me around. I thought somebody else hit me then real hard, but that must have been when I hit Bobby. I heard somebody say that I hit Bobby after I got turned around, so I'm sure that's probably what it was.
Are you going to have to park it now?
I haven't looked at the car. I don't know. Not unless we absolutely have to. I'll assure you of that.
Well, Phil Parsons in the car. Now take a look at the damage on the car as he climbs out. The rear of the car completely collapsed back here, but the important safety feature, the fuel cell is still intact. No fuel leaking from underneath that car. In the back of the car, it's completely shoved in. You see Phil getting out, surveying the damage here. Some of the sheet metal bent, battered. He is completely okay. The driver's compartment intact, but the fuel cell did save that. No fire, no fuel on the racetrack. A good safety feature here in Winston Cup competition.
Thank you, Jerry, for that report from Phil Parsons. Bobby Allison's car, meanwhile, has been loaded onto a flatbed and is being taken off the racetrack, and it's a very badly damaged Miller American Buick that Bobby Allison climbed out of, fortunately uninjured, but we're concerned about some spectators who may have been hit by flying debris. The track security and the Talladega Sheriff's Department is on the scene, trying to keep the crowd under control as they assess the damage and possible injuries. That is the area of the crash, and it is just almost underneath Harold Kinder's starting area. Well, let's once again go down to the pit area for this report.
And I'm with Benny Gertel. He's team manager for Stavola Racing. Benny, you were close to that accident.
Yeah, I was up there spotting for Bobby, and when he come through the tri-oval, the right rear tire blew, and that the air picked up the car and sent him right into the grandstands and ripped down portion of the fence. And then when he came back onto the track, spun around a few more times, and he said he was all right for now. And then here come Phil Parsons and hit him again in the door. Then I asked him how he was, and he still said he was all right. So that's racing, I guess.
How about the grandstand? Could you see, is everybody okay up there?
Everybody in the grandstand seemed to be okay from my vantage point, but I'm not really sure, Dick.
Well, that's good news. We certainly hope everybody is okay. Benny Gertel, he was real close to that thing. He said it almost got him.
All right, thank you, Dick. 22 laps have been completed here at Talladega out of 188, and that's kind of ironic because it was the number 22 car of Bobby Allison's that started this multi-car accident here in the tri-oval. There is Allison's car being taken back to the garage area on the flatbed. Well, a scary moment for all of us. We hope that everybody in the grandstand is okay. It appears as if all the drivers managed to escape this very bad crash okay here at Talladega. So we're going to take another commercial break. We are under a red flag condition at Talladega. At Talladega, with 22 of 188 laps completed, there are the top five: Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott, Davey Allison, Buddy Baker, and Dale Earnhardt. We are under red because of a terrific crash here on the tri-oval as Bobby Allison's car blew a tire. But Bobby is okay. You can see him walking around right there, smiling now after gathering his thoughts and calming down just a bit. A tire shredded on the car. He's waving to the crowd now and nearly got into the grandstand. It tore down a huge section of catch fencing. And by the way, as I said earlier, that is new catch fencing. There is Bobby Hillin, Bobby's teammate. That is new catch fencing, and the feeling is that if this accident would have occurred a year ago with the old catch fencing, Bobby Allison could very well have gone into the grandstand.
Yeah, they rust after a few years, and it's difficult to assess just how sturdy it would be. Although it is the absolute contemporary style of fencing, the NASCAR people have been very conscious of putting the utmost to security and safety measures into the design of this racetrack. So it's likely that the old stuff, it might have been a little old, but it was pretty strong, too.
The leader of the race is Terry Labonte. He's with Dick Berggren.
Terry, you were certainly in the right place at that particular moment. First time you've led in a new car. Must feel good today.
Well, it really does. You know, all the guys really got the Budweiser Chevy running super today. It's really handling good. You know, of course, Elliott and some of the other guys are awful strong, but I really feel good about it. The car's working awful good.
People have been talking about the Fords here at Talladega as being the fastest. You're in a Chevrolet. Can a Chevrolet win today? Can you win today?
Well, I hope so.
Okay, that's Terry Labonte. He's in the lead. He's in the best position when the green flag flies again. Now down pit road to Jerry Punch.
Well, Bobby Allison just walked out of the infield care center. First of all, Bobby, are you okay?
I'm okay. Very thankful to the good Lord that I'm not hurt, and I hope nobody else down there is hurt too bad.
What happened down there?
I think I ran over something. I couldn't really tell. Something bounced under the car, and then the tire exploded. And I think I ran over something and cut my right rear tire down, and it spun the car in the tri-oval there, and up in the air it went, and round backwards. So just nothing I could do.
Any recollection of hitting the fence or who might have hit you when you came down?
Well, I knew I hit the fence, and yeah, I recall that quite well. I don't know who else was involved, and I'm very disappointed anyone was involved. I'm very sorry about that.
Well, Bobby Allison, a true champion, even in defeat here at Talladega.
You know, the last couple of races, Larry, we have seen incidents of fans, if I can use that term loosely, throwing beer cans and other debris on the racetrack and really creating a serious situation. I think we have to compliment the fans here, because when that car hit and there was obvious pandemonium down there, most of the spectators kept their cool and rushed to the aid of their fellow spectators.
Most everybody who comes to Talladega is pretty serious and sit up in the main stands, because you have to make a major financial and emotional weekend commitment to come here. And those, for the most part, are pretty hardcore race fans. But you're absolutely right, Bob, that everybody remained in their seats, and everybody kind of stayed back to make certain that everything was under control as the situation unfolded. And really, nobody rushed down and crowded out the safety officials or the law enforcement people. There was no crowd control that was needed. You know, Bobby Allison had, for him, a very typical weekend again. On Friday night, he watched his son Clifford win at the Birmingham International Raceway, local by here, and he spent Friday night repairing Red Farmer's car. He raced himself last night, again on a night with a little sleep, and here at Talladega Sunday.
We had an ARCA Permatex 500-kilometer race here on this racetrack yesterday. ARCA competitors. And at the very beginning of that race, Jerry Churchill dropped to the bottom of the racetrack with a blown engine, and that was an indication. Actually, it wasn't a blown engine, but a mechanical problem, and that was the first of many incidents that gave us concern in that ARCA race yesterday.
The ARCA drivers have shown marked improvement on the super speedways in recent years, but this race would not be without one major incident, which really wasn't the fault of any driver or group of drivers. It was similar to the situation we just saw here in the front stretch. There's Dave Fletcher on the inside and Red Farmer on the outside.
And then a flip in the tri-oval as Billy Simmons' car got upside down, the number 17 machine. It landed in the entrance to the pit area. But fortunately, Billy Simmons climbed out of that car. It was a little bit dusty. In fact, it looked sort of like a chimney sweep after that accident, but he was completely uninjured and walked away from the crash.
Summer has come early to Alabama. There is Sergeant Charlie Glotzback. Yes, the same one who once held the Alabama International Motor Speedway one-lap track record. The white car there on the low side. Sergeant Charlie Glotzback has come out of Indiana, where he has been running dirt track cars the past 3 or 4 seasons. Says, gee, maybe I'd like to do this again. Has he lost anything? No. There he goes by Grant Adcox, who came into this race having won 2 in a row for ARCA here at Talladega.
And then a holocaust in the pit area. While trying to review the Bill Scott car, a fire broke out. And one of the crew members, whose name is Harry Rommel from Nashville, Tennessee, was burned rather extensively. He is suffering 2nd and 3rd degree burns. 3rd degree burns on 5% of his body. He's in the University of Alabama Burn Center, Caraway Methodist Hospital, and we wish him the best. Jeff Bodine saw this occurring and came down as a former volunteer fireman. He pretty much knew what to do, gathered a fire extinguisher, and started to extinguish the flames. That's Rommel being airlifted to the burn center as the race got underway once again.
A number of people appear to be candidates, certainly most notably Glotzback. Adcox was right in there. He was certainly a candidate. At this point, Glotzback had pitted before many of the other top contenders. We didn't know exactly why. Jeff Hammond told me later he was crewing that car, as a matter of fact, yesterday. He thought maybe they missed something. He didn't understand why everybody did not pit. There's Adcox making his move. And then as they came around turn number 3, we have just had a restart. The field is tightly bunched. And then, watch this.
14 cars pile up, 10 of them unable to compete in the race any further. There you can see the melee down there in turn number 4. A fire breaking out in the Tracy Reed car, but it extinguishes itself quickly. But there was a lot of damaged material down there. No driver injuries, however. Then the finish, Grant Adcox was able to pull away from Charlie Glotzback in the closing stages, and Grant Adcox won his 3rd consecutive ARCA race here at Talladega, tying a record set by Davey Allison in ARCA competition and Buddy Baker in Winston Cup competition.
He did make it look easy.
The top 5 finishers in that race, Glotzback was 2nd, Red Farmer was 3rd, Bobby Waywack 4th, and Dave Fletcher finished in 5th position.
Might add that all 5 of those people had strong races. There was nobody in that group that backed into position. All of them looked like they were a threat to win.
Well, there is the cleanup going on down near the starting line as they're trying to repair the catch fencing, which will have to be repaired before we could start the race again. The cars are lined up on...
Bob, I think almost everyone, you'd be a fool not to come back in. As one crew member said to a driver, said, look, you know, we've got to come in. I know you want to lead a lap, but you got to come in. We got to change tires. Richard Petty has significant damage. Mike Waltrip, Sterling Marlin. There's probably at least a dozen cars that had debris in their car, stuck in the grill, somewhere in the body from that disintegrating Allison machine. There's also been glass on the racetrack. Now, it's been swept by the NASCAR officials, but they're going to have to bring everybody on pit road, change the tires, clean the cars up, and check everything out before they let them go back to racing here at Talladega.
All right, Jerry, thank you very much. We do take our hats off to 3 groups of individuals here. First of all, the track security for the Alabama County Sheriff's Department, who have been able to maintain control of this huge crowd very well during this red flag. A couple of minor skirmishes in the stands, but nothing serious. And then, of course, the track repair crews who have worked very diligently and hard in the last few minutes to get this race back underway. Down to the pit area this time to Dick Berggren.
Bob, I'd like to continue in that line, and I'd certainly like to give a good round of applause to the Speedway officials here and to NASCAR as well. The easy way to fix that fence would have been just to have thrown something together, but they've gone down there with 2 welding machines, big heavy steel. They've taken some chain link fence out of a VIP lounge area, parking area, and put it up there. That fence is solid. It's a good piece of workmanship. They've worked very hard on it. It would have been easy to do it the quick and dirty way. Second group, I want to give my hat off to the fans here. They have just sat quietly and patiently. I'll tell you, race fans have to be the best people in the world. It's hot here this afternoon, and there's been no problem at all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the 4th group of people that need to be saluted, because there have been fans displayed. And we've been trying to establish a 1-mile wave, but it has not been able to go the entire length of the grandstand, which is about a mile in length. And there are some people in the infield that are getting ready for the restart. The leader, there he is, Terry Labonte, in number 11. Right behind him is the number 9 Coors Milling Ford, driven by Bill Elliott. Then the 28 car, driven by Davey Allison, followed by Buddy Baker. There's Dale Earnhardt's Wrangler Jeans number 3. Ken Schrader's Red Baron Pizza car number 90. Sterling Marlin's Piedmont Airlines Oldsmobile. Then Rusty Wallace, followed by Rick Wilson, who is still carrying one of our in-car cameras. There's Morgan Shepherd in the 26. Harry Gant is right behind him. Then the number 64 of Connie Saylor.
Connie Saylor being followed by the 62 car of Steve Chrisman. These are cars that may be a lap down as we get back to this point. 50 car, Greg Sachs. You saw him in that long slide as he went up into the number 1 car. His teammate, Neil Bonnet, number 75. Kyle Petty in 21. Somebody that some people think is one of the potential favorites. Kenny Reagan in 77. Ricky Rudd losing ground in 15 out of the IndyCar ranks. Eddie Pym in car number 98. And Alan Kowicki, big spin down in the infield. Lots of repairs there. The number 73 car of Phil Barkdahl. 82 of Mark Stahl. The 18 car now being driven by Dale Jarrett. There's Darrell Waltrip. And the number 67 machine of Eddie Birchwall. And bringing up the tail, no, it's not the tail line. That's Rick Knoop in 6. 12 car. That's Slick Johnson. There's Bobby Hillen Jr. The line goes on. The 52 car of Jimmy Means picking up a new sponsor this week. Benny Parsons, he also lost some ground. Dave Marcus in 71. And the driver of the number 99 car this week is Joe Ruttman. That is the ball machine from Eastern Tennessee.
And we have 3 cars that are on pit road, namely Richard Petty, Michael Waltrip, and the 55 car of Phil Parsons. 3 cars knocked out because of the accident. Bobby Allison also the number 1 car is also out of the race. Now,
Bob, I was at that race that day, Michigan 1982, a 5-hour rain delay with the race ending at 9:30 p.m. I could not believe that Winston Cup cars could run until 9:30, but it was in the height of summer, the days, you know, with daylight savings. It was very long, and the shadows were more than shadows. The race ended actually in darkness. I remember being in the pits when Darrell Waltrip came in, and it was a very special sight.
And there is Darrell already strapped in the car, ready for the word to be given to start the cars and resume this race. His windshield being replaced, and with more on that story, here is Larry with this report.
During the running of last spring's 500-miler here at Talladega, Bobby Allison won the event, and that was done despite having to stop and change a windshield during the actual running. Well, it's not uncommon here at Talladega with 200-mile-per-hour plus speeds for a projectile the size of a small pellet to act like a shotgun blast to the front windshield. Now, the crews, they are accustomed to doing this. It's not an every race occurrence for every team, but they are prepared. We have asked the Kodiak crew to help us out here to slow down the procedure just a little bit. It begins when the driver comes in with a razor blade being taken to the silicone sealant that's encircling the front windshield. That breaks the seal. At the same time, an Allen wrench has been taken to those little bolts there in the top, which loosens the front windshield. That is all that holds it in. The old culprit is taken away. The brand new shiny one is put into place. Now here comes the really tricky part. No sealant this time. There is no time during the actual running of an event to do it. Instead, 200 mile per hour, naturally 200 mile per hour tape, now rings the front windshield. The Allen wrench once again fastens those little bolts there on top. The windshield is in place. And while the gasoline is being filled in, the tires are being changed, the windshield job, the replacement of it is complete. Now, this little exhibition took about 30, 40 seconds, but the crews tell me during the heat of combat, they can do this in 20 seconds.
And Darrell Waltrip's crew will be standing by in the pit area to make the, there they are, headed by Waddell Wilson. They'll be ready to put that new windshield in when Darrell comes around after the word to start engines is given. Once again, we are 22 laps into this 188-lap race that makes up the Winston 500 here at Talladega. We have been red now for 2 hours and 20 minutes, but by and large, the work has been completed here just below us where the fencing was torn down, so it's just a matter of time now before we can go back to green, and the fans remain very enthusiastic about the race here this afternoon and about getting this race restarted. Over 135,000 people are on hand here this afternoon. That's the largest crowd in Talladega history. So a couple of records have been set here, attendance and the fact that we have had the longest Winston Cup red period in history. We're just about to go back to more competition. Right now, NASCAR and ESPN with a track fact.
There are three primary differences between the tires used on short tracks and those used here at Talladega. First, the surface. The surface of a Talladega tire is very, very thin. There's only about 1/8 of an inch of tread here. That helps dissipate the metal.
We're involved in a very spectacular crash here in the Tri-Oval on lap 22. We were down for 2 hours and 38 minutes to repair some fence. We are only 63 laps into this 188-lap event, and the green flag comes back out once again. The leader is Ken Schrader. Ricky Rudd moving alongside him, but Rudd is a lap down. Davey Allison there in the black and white and gold number 28 is in second, and Buddy Baker in the 88 car is third.
Schrader has given indications that he could be one of the stronger cars in the field, so now he has an opportunity. Davey Allison tucks right in behind him. They go underneath the 64 car. Connie Saylor driving for Elmo Langley this week. Buddy Baker follows through. Kyle Petty is the fourth one in line.
They come out of corner number 4 and into the Tri-Oval once again. Look at the field all stacked up behind the leaders. As they come through, it is still Ken Schrader from Benton, Missouri, now showing the way. We've had 8 lead changes among 6 drivers already. Back inside the Rick Wilson car now, the Kodak car, following Benny Parsons there on the left side of the screen. Now he goes to the inside and passes Benny Parsons, and Neil Bonnet is also right in front of him. Benny obviously not happy with the car, with the way that car is performing. Benny Parsons out for a Sunday afternoon drive in excess of 200 miles an hour.
Tight quarters, 2 Valvoline cars, Greg Sachs and Neil Bonnet. There's Elliott moving up.
Elliott's car is apparently performing okay. We had some concern about that because he dropped low on the racetrack, and there is Darrell Waltrip at number 17 now right alongside Rick Wilson.
Waltrip has been driving a calculated race since replacing that broken windshield. Remember, he ran up into the top 4 in the early stages.
Darrell passes Rick Wilson. Into the 33 degrees of banking once again. Connie Saylor at number 64 to the left. Darrell Waltrip ahead. And the lead now belongs to Davey Allison. Buddy Baker is second. Ken Schrader back to third. Bobby Hillin Jr. is running fourth. Remember, he's won his only Winston Cup race here on this racetrack.
Bobby Hillin Jr. was the best overall performer in the 2 races a year ago here at Talladega. He had a 4th in this race in the spring, and he won the midsummer race. 1st and 4th a year ago. Best performance of everybody.
Now Dale Earnhardt is also caught up to the lead draft. He goes to the inside of Bobby Hillin Jr. and passes Bobby easily. Now he'll go outside of Ken Schrader as that Chevy handling well for Dale Earnhardt. He's 4th. But look at Terry Labonte and Kyle Petty also catch up to this lead draft.
Kenny Schrader leading to 5 cars behind Buddy Baker, even though he has never won.
Look at the competition out there. 4 abreast going into turn 1. Unbelievable.
Passing lap traffic. Elliott leading the group. There's Sterling Marlin. He's in second of that group. Then comes Waltrip. Rick Wilson carrying our onboard camera. Benny Parsons out back, and Dave Marcus on the high side of that group.
Marcus in the 71 Lifeboy car. Now Marcus lets the car get up high on the racetrack as Rick Wilson looks for a spot on the inside of the racetrack.
Back in 1976, Dave Marcus was one of the winners here at Talladega. One of the places where the...
Oh, an engine is blowing. It's Davey Allison. No, it's Buddy Baker. Buddy Baker's engine apparently has gone sour. A big puff of smoke and vapor from that car. And Buddy Baker's afternoon may be over. He's at the very high side of the racetrack in turns number 1 and 2. There he is.
Trying to stay out of everybody's way. That was the best place for Buddy to go. Yeah, you might say, well, what if he's dropping oil? Isn't that dangerous? No, Buddy was right up on the top of the racetrack. And because of where he was positioned when the motor went away, that was his best move to move up there.
There he's signaling everybody behind him that he's going to the inside of the track, and Buddy Baker just with an unbelievable job of driving to keep that car high on the racetrack, out of the groove itself, and keeping everybody out of trouble. Back to the yellow they race, and it is Davey Allison now leading. Earnhardt is going to be second, Hillin third, followed by Terry Labonte, Ken Schrader, Kyle Petty, Bill Elliott, and Greg Sachs.
For a lot of reasons, Bob, I'll tell you, I wish that Buddy would have had an opportunity to run this entire race. His last win was Daytona in 1983, and I felt he had a good chance today. There's Neil Bonnet. He takes this opportunity under yellow to stop briefly.
They're going to have to check the track for oil or other moisture on it before we go back to green situation. We're on lap number 70, and this is our 5th caution flag, caution period of the afternoon.
A year ago, Buddy's best finish in NASCAR Winston Cup racing was right here at Talladega. He got 3rd. In 1985, 2 years ago, he was 4th on 2 occasions. As we told you, his last win, Daytona 83. That was his 19th career win. One of the stalwarts of super speedway racing in NASCAR.
Harold Kinder displaying the yellow flag. Boy, he has had a unbelievable afternoon already, as the Bobby Allison crash occurred about 10 feet from him, and Harold had to be concerned about Bobby Allison's car actually coming up into his starter stand, but it did not. Now Dale Earnhardt makes a pit stop.
Kyle Petty jets in. A little early for a pit stop, but when we're this early in the race, if something is just not right, you've got to take that opportunity to come in. There's a possibility here that's going to put several people out of sync that if this race happens to go mostly green for the rest of the day, could provide some interesting moments and decisions that have to be made as we get down near the end.
It's a 24.3-second pit stop for Dale Earnhardt, who goes back out onto the racetrack.
Marcus was in. We saw Ricky Rudd sitting down there, Richard Petty again, and Dale Jarrett.
Earnhardt going for 5 consecutive victories in Winston Cup competition here this afternoon. As we are under caution once again, we'll be back with more from Alabama International Motor Speedway in Talladega.
Your old Buddy Baker, who just climbed out of the Crisco Oldsmobile, and Buddy, you really had the car humming today.
Oh, it was running super good. I was biding my time, and right before the last caution, I felt a little heat on the back of my neck, and I knew something was going on with the gear, but we were effortless. You know, car would close up when I wanted to. I was just sitting there riding, and I think we're used to locker here, not locker, but ratchet gear. And I think it's the first time I ever run one here. I got talked into it at the last minute because of the bad pit stop at Daytona, and I think it just got so hot it tore the ring gear up.
You did a heck of a job just to hang on to the car up there in the banking.
Yeah, well, it was right where Bobby had his problem, and I didn't want to repeat that action, so I stayed right up on top of it. I was lucky, though. You know, at speeds we're running anymore, when things go wrong, they go wrong, so I was real lucky.
Well, with you out of it now, Buddy, who's looking good to you out there?
I'm too sick to answer that. I thought I had to race one. You know, it's a long ways to go, and Terry Labonte looks to me like he's handling a little bit better than anybody else, but Bill Elliott's got a lot of straightaway.
Well, the story in the garage this morning from people like Elliott and Earnhardt and even Terry Labonte was that this man, Buddy Baker, if the car would hang together, he would be the man in victory lane today, but of course it didn't, and so it's left up to them to decide who's going to win the Winston 500.
Yellow remains out, and tonight we remind you that at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, it'll be a resumption of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The series between Detroit and Toronto tied at 3 games apiece, so this will decide it. Can Jacques Demers' Detroit Red Wing Club win this game, or will it be the Toronto Maple Leafs? You'll find out at 8 o'clock Eastern Time tonight, live here on ESPN. Now, we had a very bad crash early this afternoon that caused this race to be red flagged for 2 hours and 38 minutes, the crash involving Bobby Allison.
Too early for a tire to go away. If there was probably debris, is what I'm speculating on the racetrack. We'll never know. You can see Allison getting way up into the wheel fence, bouncing right underneath Harold Kinder, spinning down the front stretch, the field bearing down on him. They're heavily on the brakes right now, but for some people, there just was not enough time to get stopped. Bobby is okay. There were no life-threatening type injuries up in the grandstands. A few anxious moments, but all of the necessary safety precautions that NASCAR insists upon really did their job here at Talladega today.
Well, we know that all of you who have been with us throughout the afternoon have seen that crash many times as we have replayed it, and we're doing it now because we're normally in our Formula One race time, but because of the lengthy yellow, where this race is being extended well into that. And that's why, for those of you who are just joining us, we showed you that Bobby Allison crash again. Again, no serious driver injuries in that spectacular accident right here at the start-finish line. And the catch fencing has been repaired, and it's a very good repair job that took over 2.5 hours, but it looks very fine as everything is well supported and the spectators are once again safe from spinning and crashing race cars. Let's hope we don't have any more of that this afternoon, but Buddy Baker was right when he said that problem developed on his car right where Bobby Allison did hit, and it sent a thrill through me as I saw that car in trouble, but everybody stayed out of the way and everybody got through very nicely. The green flag comes out once again. Harold Kinder with it, and the Winston 500 back underway.
Bob, that last caution flag caught a lot of people at the wrong time. Suddenly, about 4 or 5 cars that were on the lead lap are now 1 lap down. There are the leaders. Davey Allison on the left. There's Bobby Hillin Jr. Sterling Marlin and Lake Speed, 3rd and 4th in line, are a lap down. 2 people who had hopes that, well, maybe our chances are outside ones, but we think we've got some.
Well, Bobby Hillin is sure looking good as he is in 2nd position, and Terry Labonte there in the number 11 car is 3rd. Here comes Rick Wilson, who is also a lap down. So several cars in this mix here, a lap down, including Sterling Marlin, Lake Speed, and Rick Wilson.
So Davey Allison finds himself himself in front of this snarling pack of 3,500 horsepower, 3,500 pound, I beg your pardon. It seems like 3,500 horsepower here at Talladega. And Davey Allison has some interesting decisions to make. You can see the advantage between first and second, and then second in the rest of the field. Davey has got to decide suddenly for himself, gee, how fast do I want to go?
Inside Rick Wilson's Kodak car once again. That's number 17, Darrell Waltrip, right ahead, and the Wins car driven by Lake Speed, also ahead of Rick Wilson.
Waltrip has remained on the lead lap. Earnhardt out of the picture, but just behind you, also on the lead lap, and I'm pretty sure that number 9 car, he's also up there too. Be rest assured that Bill Elliott appears to be in control. There's Earnhardt.
There's Dale Earnhardt also passing Rick Wilson on the high side, going into turn number 1. And there goes Greg Sachs in car number 50. So obviously, Rick Wilson's car is not up to full song, but look how those cars bounce around as they're in the 33 degrees of banking. Look at that, almost out of control.
An example of the buffeting we told you about. The cars appear to be out of control, but the drivers expect this, so they're ready to react whenever the wind gust just hits them the wrong way. They give just enough room between themselves and their fellow drivers, so when that car jumps around, they're able to catch it and save it, and no incident.
Let's go to Dick Berggren in the pit area for this comment. Dick?
Well, the leader, Danny Allison, is doing extremely well. He's on his own, but one of the guys who had been dicing with him, Ken Schrader, is now drifted to the back of the pack. The handle has gone away on Schrader's car. It has become loose. They just made 3 separate pit stops. They changed stagger, they changed the wedge, and they also changed the spoiler, trying to get the car back together again. They're looking for the handle on the number 90 car.
Well, that number 28 car of Davey Allison is really hooked up, and he too is working the low side of the racetrack. He's the leader at this moment with 77 laps completed. And coming around now in second position is going to be Terry Labonte.
Once again, stagger. There is Schrader. Dick was just talking about that. The stagger is the difference in the size, the circumference of the outside tires and the inside tires. Wedge refers to the ride height, basically, of the car on the 4 corners, and the spoiler speaks for itself. It's a little thin piece of metal that runs across the trunk lid, depending upon what angle you put it at. It either gives you more downforce or less and helps that car stick to the speedway.
Ken Schrader there on the inside of Ricky Rudd. Rudd is a lap down. The car ahead of this group, the number 27 car of Rusty Wallace, is on the lead lap, shown in the 11th position. There's Rusty in the number 27 car. That's Harry Gant, also there in 33. He is a lap down.
Close competition as always at Talladega. Although the lead changes, Corey, does not occur as dramatically as it once did. But you can still see very good competition. Despite the ultra-high speeds at Talladega, the wind whips around this bowl of a racetrack and has a tendency to allow the otherwise slower cars to keep up with the otherwise quicker cars and makes for closer competition.
Neil Bonnet in number 75 is on the lead lap. He's in 3rd position behind Terry Labonte. Look at the interval that has been opened up here by Davey Allison as that Avalon Ford is leaving everybody in the dust, at least for the moment. They enter the tri-oval once again. That's Dale Earnhardt, who has moved into 4th position behind Neil Bonnet and Terry Labonte. Bobby Hillen follows.
This is not the first time that Davey Allison has been behind the wheel of a machine in the 1987 season that showed to be a real candidate for the win, but as this race continues to unfold, as laps pass by, it's becoming his best chance.
Dick Berggren is with Joey Knuckles, who is the crew chief on the Davey Allison car.
Joey, you guys seem to be just taking off from the rest of the field. Aren't you concerned you might burn the car up too early?
Well, we were tight at the beginning of the race. The pace that we're setting right now is about the same as before Bill got stuck back there in traffic. Davey says he's really not running that hard, but, you know, maybe we'll talk to him in a little bit. He's a pretty upsy and gutsy guy, and he knows what's happening, so we're in real good shape. This Texaco Havoline Ford Thunderbird, we're going to the front and staying there, hopefully.
You mean that car has more muscle than you're showing now?
I can't say.
He's going to be great. By the way, the crew chief and the driver were childhood buddies. They always wanted to race together, and here they got their chance.
Well, that was certainly going to be my question. If he has more left in that car at the pace he's sitting right now, he has a handle on this field.
Bob, this is a big assignment for Joey, but based on what I've seen of this team so far in 1987, I'll bet they're pretty much in control. The assignment for Joey, and that is to not ride herd on Davey, but keep talking to Davey, keep giving him updates as to their progress in the race, where the rest of the field is. Keep in mind, Davey, this is a 500-mile race. We are going to go significantly more than 150 laps. That's Joey's job, to help keep this young driver informed so that Davey can concentrate on the lap-by-lap, turn-by-turn action out on the speedway.
Davey Allison's last lap was 207 miles an hour. Now Terry Labonte has broken away from third place and is beginning to reel in, although slowly, Davey Allison, the leader of the Winston 500. We are live at Talladega, Alabama. They're the top 5, and will Talladega. And Davey Allison is virtually running away from the field at this moment, but we are still early in this race.
Bob, the lead stretched from 3.5 seconds to 4.1 seconds, and now it's up above 5 seconds. So Davey Allison is disappearing in the sunset.
You know, it's been our tradition here on ESPN to follow the good battles, and boy, Davey Allison is not in any battle whatsoever. He's running away from this field. Terry Labonte is in second position. The crew chief on this car, of course, Junior Johnson. Here's Jerry Punch.
Well, we're in the Budweiser pit with Junior Johnson, and Junior, Terry seems to be running pretty well out there. You're pretty pleased with the way the car is running right now.
Right now, Jerry, we feel like we're in real good shape. We just need to get back with Allison and Bill Elliott and stay there. We've been getting separated from them during pit stops. Be year round to finish and be up there to have a shot at winning. We need to get back with them boys.
You got to be pretty impressed with young Davey Allison. It was you that gave him his big break here last year at the Talladega 500, and where a lot of people saw what he did by driving your car, substituting for Neil Bonnet.
With our car here, we was pleased with him, and you know, if we helped him along, I'm glad of it. He's doing a real good job right now.
Well, they say Terry Labonte is back to 100% healthy now, so that looks like he's doing real well. In fact, the Budweiser team has been told already that Darrell Gwynn and Kenny Bernstein have already won in drag competition this weekend at Rockingham. They'd like to make it a clean sweep for Budweiser here in racing.
Well, right now, Terry has a bit of an assignment to catch Davey Allison, who has pulled away rather significantly. Now, here are some non-Winston Cup winners. Davey Allison started third, is running first. Sterling Marlin started seventh, is 12th. Bill Parsons dropped out of competition after being involved in the Bobby Allison crash. Blake Speed started 10th, is running 14th. Ken Schrader started 15th, is running 11th. Rick Wilson started 27th, is running 13th, and Alan Kulwicki has dropped out with mechanical problems. But those are 7 drivers that have never won a Winston Cup race, but some of them that are still in contention here this afternoon.
And Schrader was the last one on the lead lap, and the first one on the lead lap, I guess you'd say reasonably in contention, is our leader, Davey Allison. He looks strong, and most importantly, he looks smooth. The lead is now stretched, Bob, by the way, to 6.18 seconds.
Well, perhaps Davey was somewhat inspired when he saw his dad crash, the defending champion of this race, and Allison perhaps thought then, well, there's going to be an Allison in victory lane anyway, and it's going to be me. Once again, from the rear of the Kodak car, driven by Rick Wilson, that is Ken Schrader following.
And, of course, the job for Schrader is to hold on as tenaciously as he possibly can to the lead lap. This is not a time for heroics for Ken Schrader. The machine is just not working. The chassis, the stagger they particularly have on the car right now, they're just not in harmony. So Kenny is trying to stay out there and hope that the pit stops come up or a brief yellow flag happens so he can duck back into the pit and stay on the lead lap and stay in contention for the win.
Schrader drops to the low side of the racetrack and now pulls right alongside Rick Wilson. Schrader right beside the Kodak car. Look at the work that the driver must do to maintain control at speeds in excess of 200.
Kenny Schrader, he certainly is one of the most versatile drivers in America today. He still likes getting in all types of equipment. Remember again that many of his early successes behind the wheel of a race car, he's giving a wave to Lake Speed. He's asking Lake to follow him. He waved to Lake, and Lake did not drop in behind him. I think that they miscommunicated there.
Schrader almost ran into the back end of the car. Watching the action from Rick Wilson's machine. That's Lake Speed now right behind him. Ken Schrader is to the inside of the racetrack. And Rick Wilson is running in 13th. Lake Speed is 14th. So this is a battle for 13th spot. Lake Speed and Rick Wilson.
Bob, this business of the hand signals between drivers when they're out there running around at 200 miles an hour, it's a very intriguing one because there are no hard and fast rules. And just because somebody waves at you, you might give him the acknowledgement. That doesn't mean that you are obligated to follow suit and do what it looks like it was indicated to be done. As you can see the situation right there, Lake Speed, as he darts down to the inside of Rick Wilson after trailing him for the last couple of laps. Does he have the advantage? Well, no. Rick is holding on. Oh, they get very close going through turn 3 and 4. Just not enough momentum to get by that time.
Oh, we have a car spinning.
It looked like Harry Gant.
Car spinning is Harry Gant to the inside of the racetrack. Now he goes up into the banking, and another car collides with him. Heavy contact with the wall in turn number 4.
Looked like Ricky Rudd. The paint job looks like Bud Moore's number 15. There's Harry, who started it. He was spinning down on the bottom of the track near the apron. He was racing with Ken Schrader. We could not tell from the angle whether or not there was contact between those two cars, but Harry Gant, the black luck, continues.
That is a badly damaged race car. Ricky Rudd coming in heavy contact with the wall. He was actually pinned against the wall by Harry Gant, whose car slid up the banking after spinning low on the track.
Ricky is moving around inside there, Bob. The signs look good here. He looks like he's trying to find a way to get out, looking for the connections on the window net. He drops the net down and now unbuckling, and Ricky Rudd decides to wait it out until the safety crews get there. This is Harry's second accident of the year. He had a wreck also at Atlanta, and for Ricky Rudd, remember, he was involved very prominently in the accident that sidelined Terry Labonte, or threatened to sideline Terry, with the broken shoulder bone. This is the third accident that Ricky has been involved in this year, and those have not been his fault.
6th caution period of the afternoon, and once again pit stops being made. Work done on Dale Earnhardt's car. They changed rubber on the right side, and now they're changing rubber on the driver's side of the car. And the crew wiping off the windshield. Quick pit stop for Dale Earnhardt. Out he goes once again.
Bob, I'll tell you, he has not dominated as we look at work being done in the Kyle Petty pit. He has not dominated like he has other races this year, but they are still very much in it.
There is Harry Gant, who's crawling out of that race car after he spun in turns number 3 and 4 and then hit the wall.
The apron breaks off reasonably suddenly. It's not a surefire thing that you're going to spin out if you drop down below it, but normally you are. Now remember, Harry's car is green and white. Let's see if we can pick it up on the screen. The spin has already begun. There is Schrader just jerking just a little bit to try and get around. And wow, right in Ricky Rudd's path. Ricky was just trying to make the only move that he could, and that was to squeeze between Harry and the track, or the outer retaining wall of the track, and there just wasn't enough room, and more importantly, not enough time.
Nowhere to go. Look at the impact. Tremendous. Ricky Rudd hitting the rear end of Harry Gant's car, then coming in contact with the wall, and some badly damaged machinery, but no driver injuries as Ricky Rudd and Harry Gant have both climbed out. And here's the shot that we had on the air. Harry is the third car in line. There he loses it.
I'll tell you, it was right directly in front of Ken Schrader, and it was not possible to tell from that angle whether or not there was contact, but the odds would indicate that there may well have been.
So Ricky is waving to the crowd, indicating that he is just fine. In fact, turning down a ride to the hospital. He's going to walk back to the pit area. Caution once again at the Winston 500. Has suffered some damage in this Harry Gant-Ricky Rudd accident. Ken Schrader, as you can see, a hole in the front of that car. It'll obviously affect its handling and performance. But Ken Schrader was not directly involved in the crash. Harry Gant and Ricky Rudd having a collision up in turn number 4. Both of those cars out of the race as Ken Schrader comes in for a pit stop.
Not directly involved unless you consider that being one of the catalysts of it makes you involved directly or indirectly, Bob. But I'm convinced now that there was contact between Kenny and Harry Gant down on the bottom of the racetrack. We could not tell from the angle whether or not Harry slowed or whether or not Kenny crept up on him. But Kenny Schrader and Gant did make contact, sending Harry into that spin. There's Neil Bonnet.
Bonnet making a pit stop here in our 6th caution period of the afternoon, and we are at exactly the halfway point. So 4 hours and about 20 minutes after it started, we have finally reached the halfway point. And again, for those of you who just joined us, the reason this race is going so long is because we were red for 2 hours, 38 minutes, and 14 seconds, a Winston Cup record for red period. And that was because Bobby Allison went crashing into the wall here in the Tri-Oval and tore down about 100 feet of fencing, which separates the spectators from the racetrack. That all had to be repaired, and it took over 2.5 hours. Bobby Allison was not injured. There were a couple of other cars involved, including Phil Parsons and Cale Yarborough. They were not injured also, so no injuries from that serious crash. By the way, the record for the longest red period until today was at Michigan International Speedway.
And that record still stands. I think they had like a 4 or 5 hour delay. Finished that race at 9:30. It was an 8.5 hour marathon. Dick Bergen is right now with Ricky Rudd.
Ricky, first of all, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I think Harry's going to be all right, too. It looked like, I don't know exactly what triggered it. When I got there, Harry was spinning and came up the racetrack in front of me, and I got into him.
By the looks of your car, it was a very heavy crash.
Well, it was right hard contact made there. Stretched my neck a little bit.
But he's still a good sport. He walked the whole length of the garage area here to give us the interview. Ricky Rudd, okay, after a tough one.
Nice young man, Bob, I'll tell you. Ricky's a good guy, and they've had a pretty good season by and large. When they've been able to avoid the accidents, which have not been their fault, they have been a consistent top 5 candidate.
Gant's car on the flatbed being taken back to the garage area. Well, let's check our mid-race recap right now. Presented by Napa. The leader at the halfway point was Davey Allison. It was under a caution period, however. The average speed to this point, 154.213. We'd have 7 leaders and 11 lead changes, 6 caution periods for a total of 25 laps. There are some of the cars that have dropped out of competition, including the number 22 of Bobby Allison, who was involved in the accident that caused the red flag. And other cars that have dropped out of competition include Chet Phillip, Jeff Bodine, Phil Parsons, Cale Yarborough, Ron Bouchard, and Alan Kulwicki. Joe Ruttman, Buddy Baker, Phil Barkdahl, Jimmy Means, Harry Gant, and Ricky Rudd have also called it quits for the afternoon.
High attrition rate, Bob, and we've already exceeded the normal number of 3 or 4 caution flags at Talladega. It's been a tough day.
Rick Wilson getting some service on that car, pulling out of the pit area once again. Is going to maintain the lead here, as he is the second car behind the pace car, but the leader of this race, and Terry Labonte right there in the Budweiser car in second. We'll be back with more of our live coverage in just a moment. Schrader car, he was somewhat involved in that accident up in turn number 3 and 4 involving Ricky Rudd and Harry Gant, and they're doing a lot of patchwork there on the right front of the car.
You can see Schrader and crew trying to create as much aerodynamic advantage as they possibly can with duct tape. That's a tall assignment. They're trying to seal off all the little nooks and crannies and little cracks where air might sneak their way through there. Obviously, they're going to disrupt the aerodynamics significantly. Now, they have been able to remain on the lead lap. They are the last car, the 12th car on the lead lap, so they still got an outside chance, but boy, it really is a long shot when you have to go out onto a super speedway where aerodynamics means so much with a car jury-rigged like this.
12 cars remain on the lead lap, and Ken Schrader has, at this moment, not lost a lap. They are coming in and out of the pits trying to repair that car, but so far he's maintained lead lap status.
Bob, if there is a surprise among the people who was up there in the top 12, it is the guy who came into today's race that nobody looked toward as a real potential threat to win this race. And I'm not saying just because you're on the lead lap right now makes you a potential threat, but we're past halfway. Ed Pym in the Mike Curb machine is still on the lead lap. I thought that at one point he had dropped a lap down to the leaders, but apparently he's made that up. This is the first official Winston Cup start, although he has attempted to qualify for a number of events, but Ed Pym is in 10th position on the lead lap. We are past halfway at the Big T.
Ed will be going to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway after this weekend to begin preparation for the 500-mile race. We understand that Phil Parsons, who's been making repairs, trying to get back into the race, may be having some success. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
Yeah, Bob, if there's a definition of tenacity, it is this crew for sure. There are 12 people working on the car. Why all this work? You've dropped out of the race at lap 22.
Well, Dick, you know, these guys never quit, and we're running all the races this year, and so the points are very critical. We know if we can get back out and run just a couple laps that will beat 2 or 3 cars that never came back out after the crash. I hate somebody else's misfortune along with ours, but we got to do the best we can. We owe it to our sponsors, Copenhagen, Oldsmobile, the Prairie Gaskets, to get back out there and run as many laps as we can. It could really make a difference at the end of the year.
So they're rebuilding the car here in the garage. Up to you, Bob.
Thank you, Dick. 97 laps have been completed. Well, the International Motorsports Hall of Fame is located here on the Talladega grounds, and a presentation was made earlier.
If there was ever any question about how suddenly dangerous Talladega's 200-mile-an-hour plus speeds are, this car is the answer. Also, if there was ever any question about how safe the contemporary Winston Cup car is, this car is also the answer. Phil Parsons in 1983 survived a horrific first-turn Talladega crash and rollover in this machine.
Bob, you see it developing right here as they come down the front stretch. Phil begins the fishtail, makes contact with the number 11 machine, a Darrell Waltrip. Into the first turn they go. Phil's car gets airborne, and once that happens, away she starts.
And I believe I counted 6.5 rollovers that Phil suffered in this accident back in 1983. The car rolling completely down the 33 degrees of banking.
Landing on top of Ricky Rudd.
Yeah, making contact with another car at the bottom of the racetrack. But Phil was able to get out of there with no problem. But safety is certainly a major, major factor here at Talladega. We saw a heart-stopping accident involving Bobby Allison earlier in this race, but he too walked away from the crash. All right, we're about to go green once again, and the Winston 500 resumes. 98 laps will be complete when the green flag comes out, and Davey Allison and Terry Labonte are at the front of the pack. One car smoking very badly coming through the tri-oval, Dale Jarrett. When he stepped on the accelerator, a big puff of smoke came from that car, and the yellow goes out once again. We'll have to check the track for oil.
Well, the leaders will race around to the checkered flag. There you can see Davey Allison waving to Terry. Terry Labonte waving to the rest of the field behind him. We are still just at the halfway point in the race. The gentleman's agreement is taking effect. Davey and Terry staying in the throttle, but not expecting anybody to move around them. Now, those are lap cars that are trying to make up ground. Now, Davey will do his best to hold back the lap cars. The other guys who are on the lead lap with him will not go to racing with him. That's Lake Speed trying to get caught up, as is Benny Parsons, Morgan Shepard in the green car. But Davey does his job, kind of holding the standard for the rest of the people on the lead lap. The rest of them say, Davey, you've got to beat those guys back to the line. We need to keep these people a lap down, and he did it.
It's only one, not even a lap of green, and the caution comes out once again because of Dale Jarrett's mechanical problem here in the tri-oval. So we're nearing the 100 lap mark. We completed 99. Next time by will be 100. We'll still be under caution at that period.
Jesus, like pulling teeth trying to get 4 or 5 consecutive green laps. Once they get going, they seem to rock it around here pretty well for half hours at a time, but it's just getting past the hump of those first 2 or 3 up-to-speed laps.
The track crew is out, and they're spreading some oil dry on the surface of the racetrack here in the tri-oval. There is Bobby Hillen Jr., who is running in 6th position here. He is doing a fine job, and remember, his only Winston Cup win came here at Talladega, Alabama. Bobby Hillen is certainly in a challenging position to make it Winston Cup win number 2. And Bobby Hillen Jr., this is a little feature we did on Bobby Hillen at Bristol, but it involves the physical exercise and stamina that a driver must have in Winston Cup competition.
As one of the newer Winston Cup drivers, you may take training for a place like Bristol a little more seriously than some of the veterans.
Well, I think I take it seriously primarily for one reason. That's because I haven't been doing it that long, and the fact that Richard Petty and Bobby Allison and the guys that's been here for years,
maybe I train a little harder than them because of the fact that they've done it year after year and year after year, and their body is accustomed to it. After 20 or 25 years of doing something, you don't really have to train for it. It's like pro football. They're not on the field as much as high school football players are and college football players are, because they've worked their bodies and they work their bodies and they work their bodies. They just have to worry about execution on the field, and I'm in a position where I have to worry about execution on the racetrack. We go out here and we beat and we bang and we go into the corner 500 laps around 4 corners. That's a lot of corners, and it throws your body over to one side. You have to fight the steering wheel, and at the same time you have to be mentally relaxed. And so I feel like since I've been in the sport, I've become more and more relaxed, and also been able to keep up the intensity while I was driving. And so, I try to do novelist weights to keep my body and my muscles good and toned, so that they don't get wore out. And I don't want to really build myself up. I just want to stay muscle toned. And I do a lot of racquetball for my hand, foot, and eye coordination. And then along with that, I do some boxing. And the boxing is something that Humpy Wheeler got me involved in. And it's more of it's a hand, foot, and eye coordination sport, but it's also something that helps me work on my aggression, because you want to be aggressive in this sport, but you can't be overly aggressive. If you go out in a boxing ring and you run yourself out in 3 rounds, well, you're going to get knocked out. That's the same way on this racetrack. If you go out there and start beating and running into people and running yourself overboard, well, you're either going to get crashed or crash yourself. And so it's something that you can work on your aggression, be more aggressive, and at the same time do it at a good pace to where you can finish the race and be aggressive. And people are going to throw some punches at you on the racetrack, and you've got to be able to stand your ground, throw some punches back. So I'm trying to learn, not only how to drive a race car, but how to temper myself in a race car, and also how to be physically prepared to take the blows and to take the 500 laps around a racetrack that's putting a lot of force on your neck and all your muscles.
A lot of physical preparation must go on by these drivers to withstand the tremendous G-forces here at Talladega and at all the racetracks that the Winston Cup runs on.
Bob, he still definitely has quite a future ahead of him. He's in his very early 20s. He's already won a Winston Cup race. They have not been in a position to win as many times this year as they were last year. That's how they won here at Talladega. He seemed to be finishing race after race in the lead lap. But, yeah, he's going to be around for a while. He's going to be a good one.
At the International Motorsports Hall of Fame last Friday, there was a presentation made to Museum Director Jerry Corbin, signifying the youngest winner in Winston Cup competition and the oldest competition winner. Both the Miller American cars of Bobby Hillin Jr. and Bobby Allison were donated to the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. We'd like to thank Jerry Corbin for his hospitality and letting us use his facility for our special Speed Week. Also, Don Naiman, the general manager of this facility, and Jim and Carolyn Freeman, who run the publicity and public relations department. Everybody here at Talladega just showing us tremendous hospitality, and we certainly appreciate their effort. And again, a salute to the track crews and the safety personnel that handled the red flag situation with real professionalism and expertise in getting that fence repaired and keeping the crowd entertained and under control for over 2.5 hours. We are about to go green once again. We have completed 101 laps. Now, Ed Pym in car number 98 was running in the top 10. He was brought in by Winston Cup officials because they thought they saw some liquid flowing from that car. The green flag is thrown once again, and racing resumes. Let's see if Davey Allison can pull away from the field as he has been able to do on a couple of occasions. And Sterling Marlin in car number 44 is also in the pit area. He lost a lap earlier and now moves back out onto the racetrack. Here's the battle on the track itself, however, as Labonte now is very close to Davey Allison and Dale Earnhardt in third.
All right, throughout much of this day, most of this day, let's say, it's been Davey Allison and Terry Labonte, the two people up front right now, who have shown the most muscle. Dale Earnhardt is right in it. Bill Elliott is right in it. Now we'll see just how strong Allison and Labonte are. We're to the point in the race where you need to start showing a little bit more of your hand. Not all of it yet, because you still have to worry about the end. But if you have the capability of burying the rest of the field, it's a strong psychological move to show how strong you are. Well, is Mr. Elliott, is he going to go out after Labonte and Davey? It's a strong psychological move now to say, hey guys, I'm in control of this. Just go ahead and put your horns in, because you're not going to beat me today. That can have an effect on people later in the day.
of strong. Bill Elliott looks very strong as he passed Dale Earnhardt.
Bob, Dale's hood is flapping a little bit more than it normally should. Now, I don't think it's to the point of being serious, but it was moving a little more than normal on the left side as he went down that backstretch.
Here they come, single file in the tri-oval. It is Davey, Allison, followed by Terry Labonte, then Elliott, then Earnhardt. Let's go down to the pit area once again.
Doctors making house calls. How about a pit road call? Neil Bonnet came in during the last caution. He got some debris in his eye and he couldn't see. Local medical first aid kit, a little bottle of eye wash, and Neil Bonnet's okay. The only thing I forgot to do was get his health insurance card. I wonder if he's got insurance.
We'll make sure that you get paid for a house call on that particular incident there, Jerry, who is, of course, a licensed physician working in Daytona Beach. And in addition to that, he is, as you all know that watch the ESPN Auto Racing, an excellent pit reporter.
Ed Pym is back out on the racetrack, but not nearly up to full speed. We saw a shot of Ken Schrader, by the way, and the repairs are flapping in the breeze. Is at the very bottom of the screen right there, and the electric tape that is in place to try and create some aerodynamics, you can see it there, is fluttering. It's not working. It's not holding up. The pressure is just too great. Kenny is still on the lead lap, but he's the last car in line on the lead lap, and his chances for victory are gone. Just hopes to hold on.
The Valvoline cars running together. There's the green car of Morgan Shepherd alongside Dave Marcus, and then the number 90 car of Ken Schrader. There's Morgan Shepherd moving high on the racetrack and allowing Ken Schrader to pass by. The number 71 car is Dave Marcus once again.
Now, the other people that have stayed in that position to win, as we call it, as we watch Schrader, remember, he's still on the lead lap. There's Pym going very slow. Ed got out on the racetrack. We reported that he was in the pit area losing fluids. On the backstretch, he's dropped down below the line. The other people, in addition to the ones on the screen right there, Davey Allison, Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott. Is that Elliott's going in by the second? Yep, Elliott had picked up Labonte in the second. In contention to win is Dale Earnhardt. Rusty Wallace is on the lead lap. Bobby Hillin Jr., Darrell Waltrip, Kyle Petty, Greg Sachs as the last green flag went, Neil Bonnet, and we've mentioned Kenny Schrader. And there is Kyle Petty.
Benny Parsons is running high on the track, and Kyle Petty right behind Rick Wilson's Kodak car. As we're inside his machine, looking out the rear end of the race car. Rick Wilson is a lap down. Kyle Petty in number 21 is unofficially in 8th. Now Kyle will make a move to the inside, at least attempt to make a move. Now he pulls alongside Rick Wilson. And Kyle Petty making a smooth pass to the inside of the racetrack.
Kyle Petty is currently 8th in point standings for 1987. He's right behind his father, the King Richard, right now. Kyle has won over $75,000 so far in 1987. He had that second at North Wilkesboro. There goes to the inside of Richard. Remember, Richard was involved in the Bobby Allison incident, spinning but not making any significant contact at the start of the race. Kyle was second at North Wilkes, a race that he raced into second. It wasn't given to him. It wasn't because of a late pit stop. It wasn't because of attrition. He was the second best car on the track at the end of the race. You know who the first one was.
Wilson with the pedal to the metal, so to speak, all the way around this 2.66-mile racetrack. We understand that car number 50, Greg Sachs, who was running in the top 10, may be having some mechanical problems.
The cars go north, they go east and north as they go through the tri-oval. Now, watch for the sun as they go down the backstretch as the cars start to go west. It's getting late in the day, and the sun is setting. It's still setting over California last time we checked. But the sun, as it peaks over this 35-degree banking, might become a phenomenon for them. Down the backstretch, reaching turn number 3. Now they're going to turn into it as they go up the banking. Let's see how it affects Rick. There it is. You see it. And as it gets lower, it could get worse as the day goes on, and we still have about 80 laps to go.
Well, of course, everyone thought that the race would be well over by this time, but instead, We are only 109 laps into the race, and look who's back out there. That's Phil Parsons. We talked to him a few minutes ago, and he indicated the crew was continuing to work on it, and by golly, that car is back out onto the racetrack. Phil had contact with Bobby Allison in that crash.
And there's a piece of Cale Yarborough's car on the back deck of Phil Parsons' car. Watch the next time we see a rear shot of it. You can see a half a Hardy sign. He's got a part of Cale Yarborough riding with him. See there?
By golly, you're right. So that's the Hardy's Copenhagen car now,
yeah.
Although Copenhagen, of course, the official sponsor of that machine. Bill trying to pick up some valuable Winston Cup points that may help him as the season goes along. There's the leader, Davey Allison. Bobby Allison involved in a spectacular crash early. Davey trying to pick up in his father's footsteps and win here this weekend. Bobby, of course, was the winner a year ago in this race. Bill Elliott is second and Terry Labonte third.
Davey has not run the last 3 short tracks. He's crashed twice. As a matter of fact, the last time that we saw it was at Darlington. Remember that big fire when Davey went through the inside guardrail? No injury any time. He's had 1 top 5 finish and 2 top 10s. Could he win today?
Huber, Dick Bergman, and Jerry Punch back at Alabama International Motor Speedway, Talladega, for the running of the Winston 500. We're watching a battle here for 8th position. Bobby Hillin Jr. and Kyle Petty. And wow, that was close coming out of turn number 2 down the backstretch. Kyle moves alongside Bobby Hillin Jr.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of that flexing. Look who they've caught up with. There's Rusty Wallace and Kyle Petty right behind Dale Earnhardt. Now, Dale is running in 4th position in the race, and Rusty and Kyle are saying, oh, wait a minute now, I think we may be a little better. Now, up to this point in the season, if you're following right behind Dale, you're in the best position you can be in the race. You see Rusty drafting up. Now, watch Rusty try and perhaps get around as they go down the long backstretch. Rusty Wallace, Kyle Petty beginning to show a little bit of assertion here as we approach lap number 115 of 188.
Well, Rusty Wallace looking very good. He started 14th and is now up to 5th. This is 5th, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th here. There's Rusty Wallace in the Kodiak car in 5th position.
It's been a struggle, apparently, all week long for Richard Childress, Kirk Schomerdine, and the crew for Dale Earnhardt. They had made some last-minute engine changes, some chassis adjustments yesterday. They had the engine out all day on Friday, and you didn't know for sure that they were having deep trouble or it was just a superficial thing, but we all sensed that they didn't have the superiority that they had in the first 8 races this year.
We mentioned a while ago that Greg Sachs may be suffering some problems, and indeed he is coming into the pit area and will be pulling behind the wall. Greg was in the top 10 and running a very strong race. There is Kyle Petty in car number 21. Yeah, race drivers make a lot of money when they're out there on the track, but they earn it, and they also give some of it to other charitable causes. We talked to Kyle Petty about that.
Program, a very special program that your sponsor has for some very special kids. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we did. Most of the sponsors, you know, the major sponsors have incentive programs for the drivers and the teams and the crews and stuff. And, you know, if you win a race, it's a $10,000 bonus. If you win a major televised race like Daytona, it was $100,000. And what we did, we took our bonus program pretty much and put it back into Citgo. And what they did in turn started a Race for Life type deal where they donate the money to MDA. And Southland Corporation, their major sponsor, was, or their parent company, has been instrumental with Jerry Lewis and MD for a number of years. And you know, this is, I think Talladega's a $10,000 race, Michigan's a $25,000 race, and you know, we've kind of let them down a little bit. We hadn't won any races, but we feel like that, you know, if we can come out ahead and win a couple of races, that it's not only going to help them, but you know, it'll help us, and it's going to help Citgo.
So that's the story from Kyle Petty, as he is very much in contention for this race on the lead lap. The yellow has come out because of more debris on the racetrack. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
And Dick Berggren right now is in Davey Allison's pit, and he and everybody else is waiting for Davey to come in for his pit stop. He is not the first one in. Most everybody else has beaten Davey Allison on the pit road. Here is Davey finally. The crew zooms over to change tires. This is a crew that's taken a rough ride for their pit stop. They had a tough time time at Daytona. They've had a tough time in general doing pit stops. They really want to do these things well, and right now is when it counts. Davey Allison, 4-tire change, fuel. Davey Allison in. He had been your leader. Joey Knuckles, crew chief, on the left front, tightening it up. We're also looking at Bill Elliott. He is in for a tire change and fuel as well. Allison still not off the jack. Down pit road to Jerry Punch.
Well, Bill Elliott and Terry Labonte both pouring down pit road, and it looks like Elliott may make it, but Dale Earnhardt will spot by Bill Elliott. 4-tire change all the way around. Earnhardt, Wallace, Elliott, Labonte, Davey Allison, Bobby Hillin. That's how they came out of the pit area.
Not the last pit stop. There'll be at least one more. But is the Childress crew beginning to come through? Earnhardt out of the pits first.
188 laps will make up this Talladega 500, and 117 are complete as we'll resume our live coverage after the stretch. And the leader now, well, is going to be, I guess, Davey Allison has moved around both Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace. In any case, Rusty Wallace is doing a great job. Let's try to... Okay, we will not attempt to reach him on the radio because he's going to be conferring with his crew chief, and we don't want to be privy to any of that information. So
well, wait a minute. I'd like to be privy.
Well, it might not be fair to the other competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we went through that at Pocono with Al Unser Jr. didn't we, a few years ago. Rusty has had a very good day, by the way. He's hung on in there at the top 10 on the lead lap.
Well, next weekend, we're going to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. ESPN on May the 10th will have live coverage of the Indy 500 time trials next Sunday, beginning at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, the final hour of time trials. And then we'll be back the next weekend with continued coverage of preparations for the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500-mile race. We hope you'll be with us next Sunday afternoon. And, of course, all during the month of May, we'll be showing you historic films of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. And, of course, we'll continue to update you every week on what goes on at the Speedway, the Indianapolis Speedway on Speed Week. Those historical films will be subject to our coverage of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So check your local listings and continue to watch ESPN for the schedule of those historic films. Now let's try to contact Rusty.
Rusty Wallace, this is Larry Newber up at ESPN. Looks like you still got a shot. You guys are hanging in there. You're with the leaders.
Yeah, Larry, the car's doing real good today. The Kodiak Blue Max Pontiac on, but Raymond Biddle just seems to be doing everything perfect. The crew hit the combination right today. Now I just got to fill the job and burn run home.
Rusty, there's at least one more, maybe two more pit stops. Are you guys going to try and maintain what you have, or is there still room for improvement?
Well, Larry, I don't think there's any room for improvement right now. The car was handled its best it did all day in that last set of tires. My tire guy can keep those tires coming like that. We'll be looking good.
Rusty, is there one driver that you're going to try and follow? Do you feel one man is the stronger, or are you going to run your own race from here?
Radio breakup has occurred, so we won't be able to give you the answer to that question. We'll instead have to watch to see how things go. Anyway, the drivers have been given the signal one more lap to go, so next time by, we'll receive the green flag and go back to racing, and that will be on lap number 120. So Dale Earnhardt is a leader. I don't know why Davey Allison moved ahead of Earnhardt and Wallace there for just a moment. He was not the first car out of the pit area and therefore should not be the leader. He has fallen back into fifth position right now. So Earnhardt is going to be the leader with Rusty Wallace second, then Bill Elliott, followed by Terry Labonte, and then Davey Allison. Dick?
Well, I'm with Dave Allison's pit. He is all the way at the far end of pit road, and that is proving to be a disadvantage for him. See, what happens here is Davey has to get out of the gas and slow down a whole lot to come into his pit. But what happened last time was, as he was doing that, about 10 cars just blew right by him on the way to their pit. As a result, they were also able to beat Davey out of pit road. Now, they selected this particular pit position because it has an opening, it's near the garage, and they wanted to have plenty of room to accelerate down pit road. But it's hurting them today. We have at least one more pit stop to go, very likely as many as two more pit stops to go, and these guys are at a disadvantage just because of where they're pitting.
Bob, I think the window has expanded. They should be able to make one more pit stop. We're completing lap number 120 this time. If you go 35 laps, you should be able to go 38. That's going to put you up to 155, and that's 33 laps from the end. Everybody should be able to make it on one more, but they all have to stop at least one more for sure, as Dick said.
The race is back under green at lap 120. Now we're going to see how strong Dale Earnhardt really is and whether the Fords of Bill Elliott and Davey Allison are more superior. There is Elliott rather, moving to the inside, and let's see if he makes a pass on Rusty Wallace and Earnhardt. He's by Wallace. They go into the 33-degree banking of turn number 3, and Elliott has second position, at least for the moment, although Rusty is right alongside. Davey Allison also right there behind Rusty and Terry Labonte. Wallace. Yes, Wallace has the lead. That gives us our 13th lead change among 9 drivers.
Both Wallace and Earnhardt lead for the first time today.
Look at this, 2 abreast racing. Elliott, a little bit squirrely in turn number 2. Settles down, though. Here they come down the backstretch. It's Earnhardt.
Who can push whom the furthest, the farthest, the fastest?
Kyle Petty also showing some muscle there behind all of this. There is Kyle on the low side of the racetrack. Below, Lake Speed.
Davey Allison encouraging Dale Earnhardt along. Bill Elliott pushing Rusty Wallace. And Terry Labonte trying to pick a hole. Which lane is the fastest?
Oh, it was too close to call. I think Wallace will get credit for leading that lap also, but it was close with Earnhardt.
Rusty washes high.
Look at Elliott. Elliott low side passes. Rusty, though, hanging right in there. Look at this great competition. Down the backstretch, Davey Allison is right on the back bumper of Bill Elliott. And now Allison goes for it on the low side. Look, oh, they almost touch. Unbelievable. Allison has the lead. Kyle Petty is coming on the low side.
Too good to talk about.
Boy, we got to settle down. We're still 68 laps away from the end of this race. Allison now begins to move away from the pack once again. I believe he is the dominant, the strong car, Larry.
He certainly appears to be, Bob. I'll tell you, on the last lap, it looked like that Elliott had designs of Davey following him through. I thought that wave was, you see Bill waving again, this time to Kyle, saying, follow me through, we will get underneath Rusty to go in the corner. And the last time that Bill did that, Davey dropped down low and just ran off and hit.
The respect that you have to have for your fellow competitor running that close, that fast.
What an interesting, important moment for Davey Allison. I agree, Bob. I would have thought, and about 50 laps ago, I was thinking in my mind, I think that Elliott has got this race. I still stand by that because experience really pays off, but in a crucial period in this race, one pit stop from the end, Davey Allison has shown to everybody, hey, guess what, fellas? The number 28 car is going to run up front here, and to win this race, I'm the one you got to beat.
Elliott, Bobby Hillin, and Kyle Petty now beginning to form a group. Here comes Terry Labonte to the inside of Dale Earnhardt at the end of the backstretch. And Terry Labonte moves to third.
Remembering back to Daytona, yes, Bill Elliott won the race. Yes, it would seem like that Bill Elliott had dominated, but remember there was a man who led Bill and definitely had the faster car than Bill at certain stages of the race. It was the black, white, gold, and orange trim number 28. Joey Knuckles, owned by Harry Renier, and driven by Davey Allison, the guy who's streaking away. You saw him just go out of your picture quickly. He's not even in the group. He's way out.
Davey Allison's last lap, 208.40 miles an hour.
208 miles an hour.
We invite you to stay tuned for SportsCenter following the Winston 500, which of course is running way long because of our 2-hour and 38-minute delay because of a crash involving Bobby Allison. He was uninjured, but it tore down some fencing that they had to repair. Chris Berman will report on Dr. J's final basketball game on SportsCenter. Join us for that right after the conclusion of the Winston Cup race.
Let me go back to something, Bob. 208 miles per hour you guys drew on that?
Yes.
208 would have put it about 15th on the grid, and that is a clean 2 or 3 miles an hour faster, I think, than most people would have liked this pace to be. Davey Allison is really giving them all something to shoot for.
Boy, he sure is. That is a strong race car, and we could very well again see this afternoon a first-time winner emerge from this race here in Talladega. There's a battle for second. It involves Rusty Wallace, Earnhardt, Bill Elliott, Terry Labonte, and Kyle Petty. All 5 of those right there, and so is Bobby Hillin.
Now remember, Rusty said, hey, this is it. I don't think there's any room for improvement. This is about the optimum that I can run. He is able to lead the pack, except he can't catch Davey Allison. But if that is true, that Rusty's car is about maxed out, that means that everybody is probably showing everything that they have. I doubt that any holds are being barred at this point in the race.
I'm a little surprised at Bill Elliott. He is content, for the moment at least, to settle there in 4th spot, although being challenged for that position by another Ford driven by Kyle Petty.
You know what, though, Bob? I'll tell you what. I'll stick with Elliott as the favorite in this race.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll see. Earnhardt passes Wallace for second. Here comes Kyle Petty challenging Bill Elliott. Earnhardt now second, Wallace third. Petty fourth, and Elliott fifth.
Just one quick comment about Dale Earnhardt. He's had 4 consecutive wins, and that ties a record. Nobody has ever won 5 races in a row except Richard Petty back in the previous era of NASCAR.
That last lap by Davey was even faster, 208.7 miles an hour. All right, 128 laps completed. We are 60 from the end of this race. It's time for us to get your predictions on who's going to win. Now, you people at home make your decision on who's going to win this race. We'll tell you who we think is going to win. Dick Bergeron, who?
Davey Allison. This is a racetrack for upsets, and right now, Bob, the way Allison is working, the way he's running, this is a very cohesive crew today. Davey Allison's my man right now.
Bill Elliott giving some hand signals to Terry Labonte as they come through the tri-oval. Here is Dr. Jerry Punch with his prediction.
Well, it'll be hard to argue with Davey Allison as possibly the guy to beat, but I'm in the Elliott pit, and I'm just not sure what Bill Elliott's doing. Let's find out. Come on, let's check with Ernie Elliott here, who's watching Bill. And Ernie, is Bill showing pretty much what he's got, or is there possibly a problem with the car?
It's just way too tight. We just need to run to the power too tight.
Well, the car is just too tight, meaning they cannot get the car to turn in the corner. The car pushing coming out of the corner. Maybe if they get a pit stop, as Larry Newber mentioned, that final fuel stop, maybe they can make a chassis adjustment, and we will possibly see Elliott make a move toward the front.
Well, maybe the car is loosening up a little right now because he's challenging Dale Earnhardt for that second position. He's on the low side of the racetrack as they come down the stripe. Let's see who wins this battle for second. Ooh, Earnhardt by just a nose.
Bob, your pick.
I was going to ask you first.
Bill Elliott. I've gone on record already.
Okay, I think Davey Allison can win this race, unless, of course, something happens mechanically, but I think he has the car, and I think he has the ability to win this Winston 500.
It has ballooned to 5 seconds. It's been ballooning at about a rate of 3/4 of a second a lap.
And the pace even faster, 207.9. He's still in the 207 range, but each lap, it seems, he moves up a couple of tenths of a mile an hour. There he is, Davey Allison from nearby Hueytown, Alabama.
Let's cite the other strong runners. This is going to time Davey this time as we follow him around. Remember, it takes about 45, 46 seconds. Bobby Hillin Jr., Kyle Petty are still on the late lap and threatening for the top 5. Thundering around Talladega. Hillin Jr. and Kyle Petty have had strong days.
Bobby Allison, I'm sure, watching all of this. This will be somewhat of a consolation after his spectacular crash here on the main straightaway, Bobby Allison's, in which he was not injured. But it caused a delay of 2 hours and 38 minutes because of torn catch fencing that you see there on the left side of your screen. 100 feet of that came down as Allison's car got airborne and went right into that fencing, which kept it from going into the grandstand. Here's the lap, 45.9 seconds. Can you imagine encircling this racetrack, which is 2.66 miles in length and that length of time? That, of course, is an unofficial time. That's how we have it on our stopwatches. But the speed translates, it's even quicker, 208.62 miles an hour.
And the lead grows. It's now above 6 seconds. It grew another half a second on that lap.
As you can see, he just passed Bill Parsons, who was involved in that Allison crash and is back in the race, but 83 laps down, now make it 84 laps. Look at the interval between first and second. Here comes second place Bill Elliott out of the fourth turn now. He now has second with Terry Labonte in third, followed by Dale Earnhardt, and then comes Rusty Wallace.
Several drivers entered today having never won here at Talladega. Among the strong runners who were non-winners, Jeff Bodine, Harry Gant, Terry Labonte. Benny Parsons has never won here at Talladega. Morgan Shepherd, who at times this year has shown some muscle. Rusty Wallace, and needless to say, Davey Allison. Elliott, he was the man to beat at Talladega, particularly in 1985. 1986, he was fast, but he was with a group of people, a group of very strong runners that included himself, Terry Labonte, Jeff Bodine, Harry Gant, Cale Yarborough, and Darrell Waltrip. Listen to those names. I'll say them again. Elliott, Labonte, Bodine, Gant, Yarborough, and Darrell. Their best combined finish among all of them last year, 21st, Harry Gant.
We're timing Bill Elliott. We have a car whose engine appears to be letting go just ahead of Bill Elliott. That's the Rick Wilson car, number 4. We continue to watch the action. We don't know whether or not it's going to necessitate a yellow flag. Harold Kinder has the yellow in hand. It is Michael Waltrip, but it's not Rick Wilson. It's Michael Waltrip, whose car this weekend painted similarly to Rick Wilson's.
Yeah, painted that way, by the way, because we are told it is the base color of a potential sponsor that they are pitching.
No yellow. Michael Waltrip appears to be able to make it to the pit area. The pace car pulled out onto pit road, but is now backing back into its stall, and we will not have a caution. We have 53 laps to go as Waltrip limps to the pit area. Now Bill Elliott has really separated himself from third place Terry Labonte as Elliott's charge and the attempt to catch Davey Allison is continuing.
The lead has shrunk for the first time. It's down to 5 seconds. Bill Elliott moved up 1.7 seconds on a single lap. So Bill Elliott begins to come on. Bob, it's also time to bring up the Winston Million. Remember, Elliott won it 2 years ago. At the start of today's race, there were 40 drivers who had a shot at the Winston Million. Some better shot than others, of course. At the end of today's race, there will be only one. Well, there might be two. If Davey Allison wins this one, then both he and Bill Elliott. Remember, you have to win 3 of the big 4 races on the Winston Cup schedule. If Bill Elliott wins today, there will be only one who is a candidate for this year's Winston Million.
And there is Elliott, whose car now may be loosening up to the point of handling better and therefore running faster, because he is closing in on Davey Allison, but Allison still with a relatively healthy lead at this point.
The Ford Thunderbirds, at one time they were at a distinct disadvantage in terms of fuel mileage, but because of research and development, they seem to have caught up with the GM cars. It has something to do with water jackets that have been inserted around the pistons, which draw heat out of those pistons, allowing them to run fuller. They get better gas mileage. They seem to be on a par now with the General Motors product.
Can Bill Elliott catch Davey Allison? Well, we're going to answer that question in the next few laps as the concluding laps of the Winston 500 are being played out here in late afternoon in Dixie, Alabama. Now NASCAR in an ESPN Track Fact. This Track Fact is brought to you by Robert Bosch Corporation, makers of Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug.
After 2 shoulder injuries, Jeff Bodine changed the seat in his race car. Now, most seats only have support here in the torso area. When you hit the wall hard, pressure is all right here, and it can break ribs, and it can also cause a shoulder separation. But look what Bodine has done. He's put extra bracing here against which the shoulder can reside. That helps prevent shoulder injuries. In addition, he's also padded his shoulder harnesses. And if you're going to hit the wall at 200 miles an hour, you need all the padding you can get.
Elliott is reeling in Davey Allison. He's reduced the interval between himself by about 2 seconds. Allison in the lead at the moment with Elliott running second. 138 laps complete. Stay with us for more. On a Sunday evening in Talladega, Alabama, the Winston 500 is being played out. It is Davey Allison leading Bill Elliott. The interval about 4 seconds. In third position is Terry Labonte. 4th is Dale Earnhardt, and 5th is Bobby Hillin Jr. Here comes Labonte, Earnhardt, and Bobby Hillin Jr. That's how close that battle is.
The question, do they have lights at Talladega? Yes, it's natural.
Bill Elliott is low on the racetrack and may be finished. The Ford drops low.
Has nothing to do with fuel. Long ways away from the pit stop. Bill Elliott, is he braking? It looks like curtains for Elliott.
Very slowly down the backstretch now as Kyle Petty and others pass him. Let's go to Jerry Punch. What's going on, Jerry?
Well, a lot of dejection in the Coors pit for Bill Elliott. They say they think he may have dropped the valve, possibly lost a cylinder in the car. They're going to bring him down pit road. Ernie Elliott, Dan and the crew waiting on him. They are very concerned that possibly they don't know what's wrong with the car. They're going to check it. Maybe they can get it fixed and get him back out.
A tough break for the winner of the Daytona 500 this year, Bill Elliott.
Bob, I'll tell you what was going on. We've been monitoring Davey and Bill every lap, and the lead was growing. Yes, I said growing. It had gone up to 6.3 seconds, then 6.7, almost 6.8. And what was going on is that Davey was forcing Bill to apparently run to the maximum. Yes, he was catching him, but he was absolutely flat out to do so, and it was just too strong of a pace for that Coors beer milling Ford to hold up.
He stays out there, but the car is definitely not up to its speed. And Bill Elliott is apparently not going to win this Winston 500.
And suddenly, Davey Allison is a clear-cut favorite. We're late in the race. Nobody now, save for Bill Elliott, before this moment had shown the ability to run with Davey Allison. Only Terry Labonte, and that was several laps ago, and right now, Terry is nowhere in sight.
There is Allison moving down the back stretch into turn number 3 once again. Go back inside the Rick Wilson car, sponsored by Kodak, and we thank Kodak for their promotional assistance and consideration in providing these tremendous pictures from there. Not only do they give us great pictures as far as still photography is concerned, but boy, some great shots from the Rick Wilson car. Thank you, Kodak.
Sterling Marlin directly behind.
Jerry, you got a confirmation on Elliott's problem?
Well, we have. Ernie Elliott has been on the headset with his brother Bill, and apparently they feel that what we speculated was correct, that they have indeed dropped the valve. They're on 7 cylinders, the engine running very sourly as he comes by. Each time he comes by, they pull the headsets off and listen and just shake their heads in dejection here in the Elliott pit.
He's still out there on the racetrack, but it's all over for Bill Elliott.
Bob, you start thinking about points as we continue to ride with Rick Wilson. You know what? Old Neil Bonnet is running on the lead lap. He's in 8th or 9th position, 8th position right now at this moment. He came into today 3rd in points behind Elliott and Earnhardt. Now, he's going to pick up some ground to Elliott. He's obviously going to lose out to Earnhardt, but Bonnet is having a really good year point-wise, isn't he? Bob Rahilly and Butch Mock must be very happy.
There are the standings. Earnhardt, of course, the leader in Winston Cup points with Elliott 2nd, but Neil Bonnet in a strong 3rd position. Richard Petty also has accumulated over 1,100 points, and Ricky Rudd, who crashed with Harry Gant in this race earlier, is in 5th position in the Winston Cup standings. And there, once again, the best battle on the racetrack. That's Terry Labonte in number 11, Earnhardt in number 3, and Bobby Hillin Jr. in number 8. This is for 2nd position.
This has got to be, though, a psychological victory for everybody, particularly the man there 3rd in line, Bobby Hillin Jr. Finally, they are running with Earnhardt. Finally, he does not look invincible. It had to be depressing for a lot of the other top teams because for a number of weeks there, it seemed like even when they made mistakes, he won. And finally, today, they have caught him, and several people have been quicker.
He has won 6 of the first 8 Winston Cup races in 1987, including the last 4 consecutive. At Darlington, at North Wilkesboro, at Bristol, and at Martinsville. But it appears as if he may not be in a winning position here at Talladega this afternoon, although he's still very much in this race. But this group of 3 cars here, Labonte, Earnhardt, and Bobby Hillin, are way behind the leader, Davey Allison.
And remember, following up on that story about the Winston Million, we are going to have a second candidate. The winner of today becomes a candidate for the Winston Million. The man to win the Winston Million has to win at Charlotte in May, and then on Labor Day at Darlington, the Track 2 Tough team. If somebody can win 2 of those races, it is a $100,000 bonus.
And Rusty Wallace is involved in a bit of a battle with Kyle Petty there for position. That's for 5th. Now that Lake speed car there, number 83, he is down a lap and being shown in 12th position.
But the leader of those are down 1 lap, Bob. It's unfortunate Lake apparently lost out on a pit stop, but he's been running strong. First guy 1 lap down.
So the evening is drawing nigh, although we still have maybe an hour and a half of sunlight left. We're definitely going to be able to finish this race, and we thank you for staying with us throughout this very long afternoon of auto racing here on ESPN. Be right back.
Terry Labonte, the crew rushing back across the wall. 37 laps to go. Labonte getting a push down pit road to Budweiser Chevrolet. He should be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel. That pit stop for Terry Labonte. Let's go up pit road to Dick Berggren.
Davey Allison still is not here. They're ready for him. They anticipate his arrival at any moment. Allison has managed to go further on the racetrack. That is key. They are close, if it have to go all the way to making this thing. We still do not see Davey Allison on pit road, but he is due here momentarily.
Well, he's still in turn number 2 now on the backstretch, Dick. We'll see if he comes in this time around. Davey Allison, the leader of this race. Most everybody else has come in for their final pit stop.
Bob, they're right at the outer limit, and Allison, well, I thought he was slowing down, but I guess you just lose the illusion of speed when you watch him all day.
Well, he is slowing down to come into the pits, but I don't think he slowed down prematurely. Here he comes, Dick.
They're at the outer limit. I mean, 38 laps is that window, and that's where they're at right now, 37, 38 laps. So the idea here is to get the car down as low as on fuel as you possibly can at the end, so it's light.
The crew goes to work, led by Joey Knuckles. They change rubber on the right side of the race car.
That's Joey leading the task force there on the right front tire. Let's see if he moves around to the left side. Whips the hose around. They're very happy. Apparently the balance of the car has been just perfect. It's been running smooth and fast. They did not change left side rubber. That's an indication that the car has been running flat level on the racetrack as it goes around the 33-degree banking.
17-second pit stop for Davey Allison. They should now be able to go to the rest of the way to the checkered flag. It might be Davey Allison in victory lane here, or it could be one of about 6 or 7 other cars and drivers that are still on the lead lap.
He got out significantly ahead of Terry Labonte. The two of them have made their final pit stops, and Davey has what amounts to a half-a-mile lead on Terry Labonte. He is exiting the backstretch, and right now Labonte is entering it.
And there is Bill Elliott, whose car is being pushed behind the pit wall.
Well, Bill Elliott's getting pushed behind the pit wall. We'll try to get a quick comment with Bill if we can, as he's still in the car, going along the side here in the Coors Ford. Well, we're here with him. Bill, what happened out there to the car, Bill?
I don't really know. I think it dropped the valve.
Looked like you really had a good shot at it. Might have been you and Davey Allison as the 2 strongest cars in the field.
I don't feel like I got to beat Davey. Davey was running too good.
Is there anybody that can handle him at all now?
Oh, not a soul.
Well, that sums it up right there. It looks like it's going to be Davey's afternoon. Bill Elliott.
All right, thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Bill, for taking time out to talk with us. I know that sentiments aren't too good at this time, but there will be better days for Bill Elliott, we know. So Bill thinks that nobody can touch Davey Allison, that if his car holds together, Davey Allison is going to win his very first Winston Cup race. Will he? Well, stay with us, and we'll answer that question now this break.
At Davey Allison's bunch, they are rock solid to go all the way. Joey Knuckles says no problems going all the way. By the way, if they win today, it'll be Joey Knuckles' first win ever as a Winston Cup crew chief. It'd be Davey Allison's first win ever as a Winston Cup driver. This pit crew is very tense right now. They are anticipating their first victory.
Very interesting situation. Davey Allison headed for Winston Cup win number 1. Joey Knuckles as crew chief headed for Winston Cup win number 1. Bobby Allison had a brush with, well,
fate.
Yeah, it was really scary. His accident here in the tri-oval about 20 laps into this race. The car airborne, going upside down in the catch fencing. The car never really going over, but the bottom part of the race car hit the catch fencing. It went back onto the racetrack, spun around several times, was hit by a couple of cars. Bobby Allison climbed out okay. A couple of spectators were injured with flying debris. They've been taken to a hospital, but hopefully no serious injuries to those spectators. It did cause a red flag for more than 2.5 hours.
Bob, Joey has been with the team for quite some time. He's got a lot of years of experience in races won with Cale Yarborough, but it is a big moment when you're the man in charge and you finally get your first win. Jerry is right now down in the pits with another update about the King.
Well, Richard Petty overcome by fumes in the car. Earlier in that early lap accident, he had the cooler in the rear end come out of the car, and so they've been having trouble keeping grease in the rear end. They had fumes coming up in the car. He literally was overcome with it. You see he's okay. It's getting a cold cloth, a little bit of oxygen there on the ground. They have put Greg Sachs in the car as Richard Petty now getting some help from the paramedics and safety crews here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway.
Well, it's a warm and humid evening here in Alabama. And Eastern time is approaching 7:30. We still have 30 laps to go in this race. Allison completes lap number 159. By the way, Darrell Waltrip has been lapped in car number 17. There are now 9 cars on the lead lap. Let's go back down to the pit area.
Richard Petty sitting up now. Paramedics have got some cold cloths on him, trying to get... Richard, are you all right? Are you okay, Richard?
Yeah, I got gassed up. What happened when we blew that tire after Bobby wrecked, knocked all our inner panels out from under the rear end of it, and all the exhaust is coming up in the car. And I told Ellie, I wasn't tired. I was drunk. I couldn't tell where I was at, so I got dizzy. That's about my idea.
Well, that's what happens with carbon monoxide from beneath the car. You just simply go to sleep, and so he was getting sleepy. They got him out of the car as a safety move, and now they put Greg Sachs in the machine.
But the King still hangs in there after all of these years. And there is Greg Sachs in the Richard Petty car as Davey Allison has gone underneath and put another lap on that machine.
Remember that there you see Richard's car, the old faithful number 43 with Greg Sachs now behind the wheel. Richard finished second at Bristol on another ESPN televised race earlier this year. Greg Sachs, the man originally from Mattituck, Long Island in New York, who had that surprise victory in the Firecracker 400 in July down in Daytona 2 years ago, is substituting for Richard Petty.
This is Davey Allison's 6th Winston Cup race of the year. And his 13th career start. Let's go back down to Dick Berggren, who is with a very nervous individual. Dick?
Well, I am with Deborah Allison. Deborah, how do you feel at this moment?
Very nervous.
That's what they said on top. What are you thinking at this point? What's going through your mind?
I'm trying not to get too excited, but I just hope he can do it. I just hope he stays out front.
But you've been here before when your husband has won at Talladega. You've been here before when Davey has won at Talladega.
I was here when he won the ARCA race, but this is just great. I mean, this is just so much better.
Crash in turn 2.
We've got a problem in turn 2.
A car sliding to the bottom of the racetrack. I believe that's Ken Reagan, is it not?
Yeah, Kenny Reagan, number 77. Did not see it develop. There was some flame as the car was coming down the banking. Apparently, it has snuffed out. Now, the interesting move here is, if there is a move by everybody, will everybody pit? Will people try to make last-minute adjustments in an effort to catch Davey Allison? Will Davey come in? Are they completely happy? Have they saved one set of tires? We have seen many Winston Cup races won at this very moment. One car is dominant. Everybody pits late in the race, and somebody, usually one of the veteran crews, pulls a rabbit out of their hat.
Lap 164, and regardless of any adjustments in the pit area, it is going to bunch up the field, and Davey Allison is going to have a rear view mirror full of Terry Labonte and Bobby Hillin Jr. and Kyle Petty and Dale Earnhardt.
25 laps to go. Looks like everybody is looking down low. They'll all be coming here to pit lane. Now, what if Davey Allison, Joey Knuckles and crew, they're not the first one out? Will he still have the oomph to get around everybody? Darrell Waltrip momentarily caught up behind him. He probably forgot for just a couple of seconds there that Davey pitted down near turn number 4.
They're going to put new tires on the right side of the car. That car working very well, but Davey apparently thinks it can go faster. There, meanwhile, is some work being done on the Terry Labonte Jr. Johnson car as Labonte is on the bottom and Allison on the top of your screen. Now they're changing, rubber on both sides. Junior Johnson himself doing some work on the passenger side of the windshield on the Terry Labonte car. Davey Allison's work is completed. He goes back out there. Terry Labonte remaining in the pit area. There he goes.
Excuse me, Bob. All of Joey's years full. Look at there. Earnhardt beats them out of the pits. They beat Hill and Jr. out. But Dale Earnhardt is the first one out of the pits. All of Joey Knuckles' years of experience paid off over the years with Cale Yarborough. Obviously, there was no choice. He had to change the tires because they figured everybody else would. He had to go with new rubber.
A yellow flag is out, the 9th caution period of the afternoon because of an incident up in turn number 2 involving Ken Reagan. The crowd remains for the finish of the Winston 500 because of an accident in turn number 2 involving Ken Reagan. Ken got up against the outside wall, scraped along it for a while, and then slid down. The backing is in the inside of the racetrack on the apron as the track safety crews are over there tending to and cleaning up the debris scattered by Ken Reagan. There are the clouds, but I would consider them just partly cloudy high clouds.
Dale Earnhardt came into today's race as the only driver to lead 8 of 8 races, and he has led a couple of times, make that a few times today. So he's the only driver to lead 9 of 9 races, and quick pit work has once again gotten Earnhardt out. This is the stuff that champions are made of. These guys are just amazing this year. Without a doubt, Dale has not been the fastest car today. I mean, it's been bad enough when he's been the fastest car because Richard Childress and crew get him out in front of everybody else anyway. And now they're still turning the trick. They get him out of the pits here with inside of 30 laps to go, about 25 laps to go. Make that 23 laps to go, and he is up front again.
Let's give you the 9 cars that are on the lead lap. Earnhardt, Davey Allison, then the number 27 car, Rusty Wallace, Bobby Killen Jr., Terry Labonte, Kyle Petty, Neil Bonnet, Dave Marcus, and Ken Schrader. A lap down in 10th position is Morgan Shepherd, then Lake Speed, Benny Parsons, and Darrell Waltrip. Those are the top 13, 9 on the lead lap.
Also coming into today's race, or should I say this evening's race, Earnhardt had 148 points more than he had in 1986 at this time. Bill Elliott had 193 points more. He has not been able to keep up with the pace, but Dale Earnhardt has. Can Dale Earnhardt substantially add to that total? We'll be back to let you know.
And Bill Elliott racing fans here at Talladega, Elliott has dropped from competition. He will not win here today. Well, NASCAR, we understand, has just announced that in 10 more laps this race will end, and that is because, I assume, of darkness. It will be 10 laps from the point of the green flag. It is getting rather dark here, but we're only 21 laps away from the official finish of the race, but they say in 10 green laps, and it will be ending.
Boy, that really does scramble everybody's mind just a bit, because Davey Allison was sitting back there thinking, hey, I know I've had the superior car today. I've got 20 laps. I can take my time. In 10 laps, you don't have to rush it, but you can't take your time either. You got to attack right away. And then the question becomes for people like Terry Labonte and Rusty Wallace is right now in 3rd. As we're looking at Kenny Reagan, remember Kenny Reagan had a serious back injury. He broke his back in a motor crash a couple of years ago. But back to the leaders. Has somebody gotten one of those magic set of tires? And will a car that has not been the superior machine today suddenly emerge? Could it be Kyle Petty? Earnhardt now comes out of the pits on the pole. Neil Bonnet has remained on the lead lap. So is Kenny Schrader. They're still having trouble keeping that front end taped down. And Dave Marcus tenaciously held on to the lead lap. Bobby Hillin Jr. The cars in the lead lap will be on the outside row.
One more lap and we'll go back to green, and then 10 green laps and this race will come to an end. That's Dale Earnhardt on the high side.
Now, in case you're wondering, everybody's got radio, so NASCAR's checked with all the crews, made a special effort to get to everybody and say, tell your driver, when we go green, 10 laps, everybody knows exactly what the situation is.
That will be 10 laps, not necessarily 10 green laps, but when the green flag drops, 10 laps from that point and the race will be over, even if we have a caution. So you can bet that Davey Allison is going to be going to the front in case there is another accident or something that would cause a yellow to come out for those remaining laps.
I tell you, this is an unusual situation, and it does put a lot of pressure on the drivers, particularly the younger drivers like Davey Allison and Bobby Hillin Jr. But for Davey, who is so hungry to break the bubble, to get into that first ever Winston Cup win, hopefully Joey's on the radio to him saying, okay, son, we think we got the best car. Just take your time. Don't waste any laps. Don't make any mistakes. Just follow Dale on the restart. Don't make any sudden moves on Morgan. Follow Dale into the first turn and pick him off going down the backstretch maybe the second time around.
If ever there was an important restart to an auto race, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. As Dale Earnhardt has the lead, Davey Allison right on his tail in second position, coming down for the green flag, and then 10 more laps to go. Earnhardt mashes the accelerator and the pace picks up. The green is out.
Great start, Davey.
The rear bumper of Dale Earnhardt as they go into one. Let's see when and if Davey makes a move. He's looking high in turns 1 and 2. Earnhardt also drifts high. Off the second corner, down the flat backstretch at Talladega, Allison makes the move to the inside. He's got him. Allison goes into the lead.
Is Allison quick today or not? Now, all Davey's got to do, Rusty moving up to challenge Dale Earnhardt. All Davey's got to do, he's got the machine. Just get out front, Davey. Grab yourself about 10 car lengths and enjoy the racing behind you.
9 laps to go.
Bobby Hillin Jr. Bobby Hillin Jr. has moved into third. Now he pressures Earnhardt for second.
Bobby Hillin Jr. running right alongside Terry Labonte. Okay, let's get an update on the condition of Ken Reagan, who crashed over in turn 2. Nick?
Bob, I've just left the infield care center where they say he has a possible broken leg. Other than that, he is just fine. He is alert. He is talking to everybody. Possible broken leg, only extent of injury on Ken Reagan.
Terry Labonte moves into second position. Earnhardt back to third. But now Davey begins to open up the advantage just a little bit. That's Bobby Hillin Jr. in fourth.
Petty is another car on the lead lap. He's in double file right now. That's Kyle on the low side. You see the red on the hood. That's him trying to get around lap traffic. Lake Speed is in there. Lake's still running strong, but he's a lap down. Darrell Waltrip is right in there also. Darrell, one of the leading lap cars, but no chance to win.
There's the leader, Davey Allison. Second, Labonte. Third, Earnhardt. Fourth, Hillin. Fifth, Rusty Wallace.
Davey Allison, no doubt, calling on some of the experience that he gained in winning ARCA races on this racetrack. Takes that, well, you want to call it a Neil Bonnet line or a Grant Adcox line down the backstretch, snaking down the back straightaway, making sure that nobody is gaining that unfair advantage, picking up on the wind that Davey is breaking. Davey is saying to everybody behind him, hey guys, do your own work. I'm out here all by myself. I'm trying to win this race. I don't want your help. I don't want to give any of mine to you.
7 laps to go. 207.90, the pace set by Davey Allison as he leaves everybody in his trail. Davey has finished in the top 10 twice this year. He finished 9th at Rockingham and 5th at Atlanta. This could be his very first Winston Cup win. There's the battle for second. 4 cars involved.
Allison, his best 85 finish, 10th here at Talladega. His best 86 finish, 7th here at Talladega. His best 87 finish, not determined yet.
Allison crosses the stripe. 6 to go.
Attention begins to focus to the jockeying for second. What a terrific race this would be for the win if it weren't for Davey. Earnhardt does not have the strongest car in that group, but he is an outstanding motor racing driver. Dale Earnhardt is tremendous. He is carrying this car. Not that it's limping, but right now Wallace and Terry Labonte are faster, and it looks like Bobby Hillin Jr. is also faster. Remember, Bobby is so good on this racetrack. Earnhardt with the weaker car, but because of deft driving and picking just the right spots in the racetrack, he remains a potential for runner-up.
Earnhardt's streak may be ending here this afternoon. He's won 4 consecutive Winston Cup races. He's third right now and being challenged heavily by Bobby Hillin Jr. There are 5 laps to go around this 2.66-mile racetrack that has provided just about everything you could expect in auto racing for us this afternoon. And there's a great ARCA race that was run here yesterday that will be on ESPN May 23rd. We want to urge you to watch that race.
Earnhardt gesturing to Bobby Hillin Jr. behind him. Don't know exactly what it was. It did not look like, hey, come follow me. Not a Crispin St. Peter move.
2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 right here. They're all following Davey Allison. Here he comes through the tri-oval once again. There are 4 laps to go in the Winston 500. The crowd is cheering Davey Allison as he flashes by the start-finish line.
Terry Labonte, his best finish in 1987 so far, a man that many people felt would be the favorite to win this year's championship, has been a 4th so far this year. Traditionally, Terry has known how to finish up front in all the Winston Cup races. Traditionally, Kyle Petty going high. Traditionally, Junior Johnson's cars the finish. That's why everybody thought he must have the inside track to the championship. They didn't count on Dale Earnhardt being bulletproof.
Earnhardt was a little squirrely, it appeared, up in turns 1 and 2 on the last lap around.
Carrying the car, Bob. I think that Dale is really working hard.
3 more laps to go. Allison still in command of this race. But a tremendous battle involving Terry Labonte, Dale Earnhardt, Bobby Hillin Jr., Kyle Petty, and Rusty Wallace for 2nd through 6th position.
Now at this moment, everybody's 2nd, 3rd, 4th on back. They have to begin to position themselves.
Look at Kyle.
Kyle, I think, is doing just that. He made the same move on this lap that he made the last lap. But they all have to start calculating. Now, Terry hasn't given up on winning yet, but it's beginning to look a long ways away. There's Kyle going to the inside of Hillin. But each of them has to decide, where do I want to be on the last lap? Don't count out Rusty Wallace. He still definitely has a shot at the runner-up spot.
And now there are just 2 more laps to go. The interval between 1st and 2nd is closing. Labonte is catching Davey Allison. We could have a contest for the lead, let alone 2nd place.
I sense that Davey is being extra special careful, Bob. He has a 2-lap advantage. He can get out of the throttle by maybe a 1/16 of an inch. That's probably stretching it, but Davey can cool it just a bit. Maybe this is a veteran-type move. This is an experienced-type move. Maybe. Let's see.
There you see Bobby Hillin and Rusty Wallace running side by side in turns 3 and 4 coming through. Here comes a white flag from Harold Kinder.
When he crosses the stripe, 2.66,
there it is.
35 degrees, miles to go.
His wife hoping that Davey can hang on for 1 more lap. And Joey Knuckles, the young crew chief on this car, may be winning his first Winston Cup event ever.
No conversation. Joey just looking down, checking the stopwatch, checking the chart. He's making sure they've done everything right. Anything to keep your mind off of the emotion. Davey Allison, a half a lap to go.
Let's watch and see if Davey Allison can win the Winston 500. He's in turns 3 and 4. He's on to the tri-oval, a short straightaway connecting turn 4 and the dog leg here in front of the grandstand. He's a few feet away from the checkered flag. There it is. Davey Allison wins. Terry Labonte finishes 2nd. And Dale Earnhardt finished 4th. He was passed by the number 21 car of Kyle Petty as they came down. So Kyle Petty picks up 3rd and Earnhardt drops to 4th. Then Bobby Hillin Jr. and Rusty Wallace.
The sweetest victories are the first-time winners.
What is it about Talladega that produces these first-time winners?
The high sign from Dale Earnhardt. He leaned out the window and gave the okay sign to Davey. Said, young man, you drove yourself one heck of a race.
There's Joey Knuckles receiving the congratulations from the people in the pits. And the spectators are cheering Davey Allison as he has his hand in the air.
Davey Allison has had a shot at a couple of other races this year. He's had a couple of crashes that he's had to survive. He's been fast every time out. They opened everybody's eyes when they debuted with a rookie driver at Daytona. They qualified on the front row. He has a pole already in 1987, and now he has a win. Davey Allison has qualified for the 2 special races in NASCAR for 1987, and he has put his name to the record books along with his father.
USA, and our winter interview is being brought to you by the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. No matter how far you go, Goodyear takes you home. Let's go to Victory Lane.
We got Davey Allison in Victory Lane and getting his 5th win here at Talladega, Alabama, trying to get unhooked, and the crew absolutely mobbing him. He's still shaking hands on the other side of the car. Davey trying to get unhooked, and Davey, a tremendous race. Congratulations.
I'll tell you, Jerry, this Haviland Motor Oil special here, I'm going to tell you what, this thing's just been awesome all day. These guys did a super job on this car, and I could do anything I wanted to with it. I'm going to tell you what, I'm just tickled to death.
Well, Bill Elliott said he thought he was the only one that possibly could handle you as he's trying to look for his cap. There he gets the sponsor mark put on his head, and they're still celebrating. Davey, it looked like possibly you and Bill Elliott were the only 2 that could run together out there.
Oh, Bill, he was pretty strong right there at the first of the race, and I just tried to ride along with him and keep my car ready for the end of the race. And there toward the middle, everybody started running side by side, and it let me get away. Let me just take it easy on the car all day, and that saved it for the end. And I'm going to tell you what, this Haviland Motor Oil racing team they're the best, I'm telling you what.
Well, they're pumped out here. Not only does he win the Winston 500, he now is the newest entry into Winston, the richest race per mile in NASCAR, coming up in a couple of weeks, $600,000, and he bumps Buddy Baker from that race. Davey Allison climbs from the car. The fortunes of the Allison family celebrating in Victory Lane.
Well, champagne all over the place, but happiness in the Victory Lane area as Davey Allison wins, followed by Terry Labonte. Kyle Petty was 3rd, Dale Earnhardt was 4th, and Bobby Hillin Jr. finished in 5th position. Just